The new transfer student is my childhood friend's stepsister. My childhood friend resented her for disrupting his family and took the lead in bullying her. I tried to intervene with good intentions, but to my shock, his stepsister ended up drowning herself in the river, leaving behind a letter filled with accusations against me. My childhood friend shrugged indifferently. She was trash to begin with. Good riddance. I didn't think much of it. After 10 years together, we naturally got married. On our wedding night, he drowned me alive in the bathtub, muttering, "Only he in this world can accept my dark side. What business is it of yours that I bullied her? Who gave you the right to interfere and drive her to her death?" I died filled with hatred. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day the transfer student arrived. 1. Hi everyone, my name is Chui. The girl on the stage had delicate features. She stood at the podium, looking down from time to time with a hint of shyness. I took a sharp breath, gazing around at everything with a mix of bewilderment and eagerness. I'm Chu Yunxiao's younger sister. I hope you'll all look out for me. A sudden, grating screech of fingernails dragging across the wooden desk pierced the air. I turned to find Chu Yunxiao beside me, his face still bearing traces of youth, yet his eyes were filled with utter contempt. He spoke up, his voice sharp, "My mother only had me. I don't have any sister. Where did this lowlife come from? Don't go claiming relations where none exist." On the stage, Chui's eyes instantly welled up with tears. His words were harsh, and his lackeys at the back of the classroom immediately started jeering in agreement. "Who do you think you are? Trying to call yourself our brother Chu's sister? Our brother Chu has only one sister, Lu Xing. Don't even try to get close." The familiar scene played out again. Chu Yunxiao turned his head and gave me what he thought was a cool, tilted head smirk, but I clearly noticed his gaze kept drifting toward the teacher's podium. The hatred from before I drowned came surging back. Real or not, I didn't care. I raised my hand and slapped that smirking, tilted face. "Keep laughing, you bastard. Think it's fun to bully the new kid? Does your dad need your permission to give you a little sister?" Damn, that felt good. Chu Yunxiao stood frozen in place, his head tilted to the side. A sudden silence fell over the room before the teacher spoke up. "Lu Xing, how could you hit someone?" Chu Yunxiao pressed his tongue against the inside of his cheek, turning his head to look at me. His expression grew cold, yet he still said, "Did what I said upset you, Xing? Be good. If you don't like it, I won't say it anymore." Still behaving my ass. All those rumors started from his careless talk. He was just someone who hitched a ride to and from school with me. Somehow, through gossip, he became my childhood sweetheart, and now people even say we're engaged. Damn it, that bastard. I shot to my feet and, catching him completely off guard, kicked the leg of the chair he was teetering on. The chair toppled over, sending him crashing to the floor in the aisle. "Don't like it. That's the least of what I can't stand about you. Just having you near me makes me sick." On stage, Chui shrieked and rushed over to help him up, but Chu Yunxiao, his face dark, shoved her aside with one hand. She looked up at him, her eyes brimming with pitiful tears, and said, "It's all my fault. My presence has upset Sister Lu. Please don't fight with brother because of me." I raised my hand and slapped her across the face without a second thought. "Are you a masochist or what? What the hell does this have to do with you? You're a lunatic begging for a beating. I don't have a sister like you. Your homewrecker mother never got into my father's bed, so don't you dare claim any relation to me." When I read her suicide note in my past life, I knew it then. Chui was a complete nutcase, someone who actually enjoyed being bullied. The letter was filled with words describing this as another form of her brother's care and affection for her. No one else had it, only she did. Yet when I tried to dissuade her out of good intentions, urging her to return to a normal life, she instead blamed me in the letter for robbing her of the chance to be close to her brother and stripping her of all hope in life. And people actually believe this pack of lies. If that bastard Chu Yunxiao was really in so much agony, why didn't he just off himself? Instead, he schemed for the inheritance, drowned me, and now he's living it up. God, what a pair of lunatics. I was so furious I wanted to kick them a couple more times. But the teacher and my classmates held me back. 2. In the office, I stood to the side with my arms crossed, defiance written all over my face. I've finally figured it out. When you encounter absolute lunatics, the only way to survive is to be even crazier than they are. In my past life, out of basic human decency, I tried to stop a case of school bullying. Instead, I became part of their twisted game and ended up getting killed. Fine, this time around, you can do whatever you want. I won't lift a finger. Lu Xing, what on earth are you doing? Since when did you start hitting your classmates? I didn't like the sound of that, I explained righteously. Teacher, didn't you hear Chu Yunxiao insulting the new student? At most, I couldn't stand by and did the right thing by speaking up, without expecting anything in return. Don't you dare accuse me falsely. Being a good person just gets you blamed for no reason. In my past life, I was too soft. When Xu Yunxiao first started telling the whole class I was his fiancé, I denied it a few times but gave up when it didn't work. This life is different. I'm going to be the biggest troublemaker there is. You're not speaking up for justice. You just suddenly attacked Chu. Teacher. Xu Yunxiao cut her off abruptly. He looked at me with that self-satisfied, doting gaze again. My fiancé is having a bad day. It's my fault. Please don't blame her. I couldn't help but gag on the spot. Xu Yunxiao's father was my dad's middle school classmate. He came to seek my dad's help a few years ago. Now, with my dad's support, he runs a small business, and they live in the same neighborhood. His father brought his mistress home, and he goes around calling random women his fiancé. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I grabbed the nearby vase with its water and blooming peach blossoms and smashed it over his head. I have nothing to do with you. Keep spreading lies and I'll beat the crap out of you. Lu Xing, how dare you? You're going to get your parents called in right now. I stared at the female teacher in front of me, who had favored Xu Yunxiao since what felt like a past life. Dressed in a short skirt and a low-cut top, her eyes were practically glued to him. I said bluntly, go on, say it. A high school student just called me his fiancé. And you, as a teacher, didn't hear it. What's the matter? Selective hearing, is it? People who know might think you're a teacher, but those who don't would wonder what your private relationship with him is. To be shielding him like this. The teacher's face turned pale. Under the scrutinizing gazes of the other teachers and the reproach in Xu Yunxiao's eyes, she fled the room in a panic. I wasn't wrong. She really did have a past with Xu Yunxiao. Xu Yunxiao might look respectable on the surface, but he's wilder than anyone behind closed doors. When they got married, that wonderful teacher of hers even gave her a set of lingerie as a gift, as if to commemorate their youth. Faced with my questioning, he said dismissively, who doesn't have a few wild stories from their youth? Men mature earlier than women. You'll understand when you're 30. I understand his damn grandmother. Being decent is useless after all. You just have to go crazy. The water in the vase had been sitting for days, growing something moss-like, which trickled down Xu Yunxiao's face and into his clothes. He looked at me in a wretched state, a flash of hatred in his eyes. Chu Yi suddenly stepped forward from behind and shoved me. How dare you bully brother Chu like that? Just because your family has a bit of money, me. I got up from the ground, dusted off my hands, and began walking toward her. Step by step, little sister. It's not that I have a bit of money, I have a lot. I took a step forward, a whole lot. I took another step forward, a fortune. Under her resentful glare, I looked at Xu Yunxiao on the ground, so much that even if I made your so-called brother kneel before me, he wouldn't have the right to refuse. Understand? Isn't this just the dark side? Who doesn't have one? I've already died once. Forget about having a dark side. I'm doing well just by not stabbing these two idiots to death. 3. The school called my parents. My dad, thinking I was about to be praised, showed up happily decked out in gold chains. My dad isn't well educated and is indeed a bit of a nouveau riche, but he absolutely dotes on me. The moment he heard from the teacher that I'd hit a classmate, my dad slammed his hand, adorned with 6 gold rings on 5 fingers, onto the table. Fighting, he turned to me and said, "Sweetheart, who's bothering you? You don't need to handle it yourself. Your dad will take care of it." The tip of my nose tingled with emotion. In my past life, my dad was convinced that anyone I liked couldn't be a bad person. He doted on Xu Yunxiao like his own son. Even when Xu Yunxiao secretly sabotaged the company and problems arose, my dad still smiled and said to me, "Don't be scared, your dad's got your back." When Xu Yunxiao married me, he didn't have a single piece of gold on him, with his cuffed hands hidden behind his back. He still managed to smile and say, "Don't be afraid, sweetheart, your dad is your rock." Back then, I thought he was uncool and didn't want him coming to my school. Looking back now, the real uncool and foolish one was me. "Dad, Xu Yunxiao is spreading rumors at school that I'm his fiancé." My father slammed his other hand on the table. "What? How dare that Chu boy spout such nonsense? He's ruining my daughter's chances at love. He deserved that beating." Just as the teacher across from him was about to speak, my father pulled a gold brick from his bag. "Even though he deserved it, I've still caused you trouble. Teacher, here, have some tea. There's no problem in this world that money can't solve. If there is, you just haven't offered enough." Thanks to my dad's diplomatic efforts, I made it back to the classroom safe and sound. When I walked in, a crowd had gathered around Chuyi's desk, gluing things down, carving words into the surface. These were the only bullying tactics at the beginning. Unlike my past life, I didn't go over to shoo them away. Instead, I calmly took my seat. The class bell rang. The English teacher, noticing the new student, asked her to stand and introduce herself. Chuyi tried several times to get up but failed. She closed her eyes, gave one final forceful push, and rip asterisk. Her white dress was left stuck to the back of the chair. Oh my god, is she crazy? Taking her clothes off in public, ha ha ha, serves you right for trying to cozy up to Brother Chu. After some discussion, Chu Yunxiao was reassigned to the spot farthest from me. He watched the whole farce with a smile on his face. His eyes held nothing but pure malice. I truly don't understand how any of this could have turned into love. Quiet, everyone. The English teacher glanced at Chuyi, whose eyes were red, then at the boys causing a commotion in the back row. She took off her own jacket and wrapped it around Chuyi's waist. At that moment, the smile on Chu Yunxiao's face finally stiffened slightly. I recall this English teacher was fired rather quickly in my past life, and the reason was still related to misconduct. Is it that damn possessiveness? I was a step behind after school. When I walked outside, Chu Yunxiao was already sitting in my car. Xing Xing, get in, why are you so slow today? As if nothing had happened, I have to say. I'm genuinely impressed by his sheer shamelessness. I stared at him in silence. Get the hell down here. Chu Yunxiao froze for 2 seconds, the smile on his face solidifying. Behind him was the crowd leaving school, and some onlookers stopped to watch. What's going on? What happened? Looks like Lu Xing got dumped by young Master Chu. She can't even get in the car now. This guy has been mooching rides in my family's car from day one. And he's so flashy at school that everyone thinks the chairman of Guangdong Group, my dad, is his father. He obviously noticed it too. His gaze towards me dimmed for a moment. Then he put on a doting yet helpless smile. Xing Xing, please stop making a scene. Alright. I stood with my arms crossed, giving him a cold stare from the car door. Last time I'm asking. Get out. Someone behind him spoke up in his defense. Who does Lu Xing think she is? She's only acting high and mighty because young Master Chu dotes on her. Without him, she's nothing. Just you wait. He's about to be utterly humiliated, afraid I'd expose his identity and ruin the carefully crafted persona he'd been working on. Chu Yunxiao grabbed his backpack, got out of the car, and tried to smooth things over by saying, I made a mistake today, so my punishment is to walk home. You take the car. Xing Xing, okay. I hadn't planned on doing anything. But there's just no way a bitch like that can coexist with decent people. After saying this, he carried himself with the air of a host, instructing the driver, drive safely and take good care of Xing Xing. Those nearby who witnessed this were moved, with someone exclaiming, I'm so touched. He's not even angry. That's true love. What did Lu Xing ever do to deserve this? I'm getting hard. My fists are clenched. I just closed the car door. And I opened it again. Before Chu Yunxiao could even turn around, a heavy kick landed squarely on his backside, sending him sprawling face first onto the ground. I retracted my leg and stood firm behind him, spotting Chuyi hiding in the crowd, her eyes wide with shock. It's my family's car. I'll ride in it or not as I please. What the hell does it have to do with you? Your own father groveled in front of me, begging me to put in a good word for him. Who the hell do you think you are? Just because you've been bumming rides for so long, you think it's yours now. A sudden hush fell over the room, followed by an eruption of heated discussion. Chu Yunxiao pushed himself up from the floor, a fresh scrape on his chin beading with blood. His gaze towards me turned icy. Lu Xing, are you trying to break up with me? His words carried a threatening edge, as if he knew I couldn't bear to let him go. My face contorted in disgust, as if I'd swallowed a fly. Sickened by the realization of this connection, in my past life, on my birthday, he swapped a cheap 9 yuan bracelet he claimed to have made himself for my Rolex, calling it an exchanged token of affection. Afraid my father wouldn't approve, he specifically told me to keep it from him. I spotted that watch on his wrist immediately. I pulled his bracelet out of my bag and threw it in his face. Fine, from today on, we're done. Give me back my damn Rolex. As he stood there fuming, I gave him a once-over. Wait a minute, those shoes, those pants, that necklace around your neck, I paid for all of that, didn't I? As I drove away, there was a streaker right where I'd been. He should be glad I didn't buy those underwear. But the taste is awful. SpongeBob, really. 5. Chu Yunxiao and I are pretty much done. Back at school, he tried to cozy up to me a few times, but each attempt was met with a slap that sent him reeling. He was never the sharpest tool in the shed. But after enough slaps, he finally learned to read the room. All the while, he still didn't forget to bully Chuyi. Perhaps out of wounded pride and a tarnished reputation, he sought from Chui whatever validation he felt was missing from me. I stood by and watched as Chui was bullied, only occasionally joining in with a few jokes. When Chu Yunxiao's lackey was smearing glue on Chui's chair, I took the remaining half bottle and casually poured it onto Chu Yunxiao's seat instead. In class, after Chui, he was the next to accidentally reveal his SpongeBob boxers. Before the English teacher could even react, I was the first to whistle and lead the teasing. He put a dead mouse in someone's drawer, making Chui turn pale with fright, and then laughed at her for being a coward. The very next day, a live, patterned snake crawled out of his own drawer, after Chu Yunxiao got bitten and started foaming at the mouth and convulsing on the floor. I casually edited it into a meme video and posted it online. I became the most notorious troublemaker in the whole school. Most people would cross the street to avoid me. At first, Chu Yunxiao would just say with a resigned look, "Xing Xing, just how long are you going to keep this up?" When he returned from the hospital, he shot me a sharp glare, holding up the absurd parody video on his phone as he asked, "Did you post this?" Propping my head up with one hand, I nodded nonchalantly, "Yeah." "Are you here to thank me?" "No need to be so formal, I'm not much of a bully, really. I learned this trick from his past life. Seems effective." He's so angry his fists are clenched at his sides, but he wouldn't dare lay a hand on me. "Lu Xing, don't go too far." I watched as the little white flower, drenched from another bucket of water thrown at her, trailed in behind him. "I don't think it's too much." I stood up, leaning close to his ear. "I am too much, and what are you going to do about it?" Chui may be despicable, but he is the real culprit. Love was just his excuse to erase his past insecurities. After all, self-esteem built on lies is exceptionally fragile, and my very existence serves as a reminder. Chui is not innocent, and he is just as hateful. I unscrewed the water bottle and poured it over his head. Water dripped down from his hair, and he couldn't help but shut his eyes. "Lu Xing, you'll regret this." I shrugged. "We'll see about that." 6. The next day. As I passed by the equipment room, I heard the familiar cry for help again. "Is anyone there? Let me out." I shook my head helplessly and was about to walk past when I heard someone inside cry out, "Mr. Chen, help, save me." I suddenly stopped in my tracks. "Mr. Chen, isn't that the English teacher who got fired in my past life, because of my sudden appearance?" Chu Yunxiao was too overwhelmed with his own troubles to pressure the English teacher into resigning. Why is Chui's helper not Chu Yunxiao, but someone else instead? Footsteps sounded behind me. I turned and melted into the shadows of the corner. The door opened, and Chui's voice trembled with tears. "Teacher, you came to save me." "Teacher, what do I do? He just won't let me go. I wish I could end it all and take him with me." Her voice was filled with anguish and despair. "Don't do anything rash, it'll be okay. I'll stay with you and we'll figure this out together." "Oh no. Someone's trying to steal Chu Yunxiao's partner." From the sound of it, Chui's hatred for him is crystal clear. A sudden thought occurs to me. Chui was neglected since childhood. In her past life, perhaps no one taught her to distinguish between love and hate, or perhaps, under Chu Yunxiao's influence, that mistreatment was ultimately romanticized into love. A child who has never tasted sweetness can mistake bitterness for a treat, for one starved of affection. The mere act of having outweighs the flavor. With proper guidance and companionship, Chui naturally wouldn't romanticize that pain, and just like that, Chu Yunxiao's picture-perfect romance was gone. "Alright, the weather's turned cold. It's about time we let the walls crumble and everyone give him a push." 7. I had my father withdraw his protection from the Chu family and, drawing on my memories from my past life, began to maliciously suppress them. Their little business wouldn't take much effort to ruin. When my father asked me why, I casually said he had improper intentions towards me. My father was so furious he didn't leave them with even the slightest shred of courtesy. To win my favor after finding out, his father not only pulled him out of school but also cut off his allowance. His father has quite a few illegitimate children. He used to spoil him to get on my good side, but when he learned the backlash was because of him, he broke one of his legs and threw him out. As for me, aside from going to and from school, I was busy running a project in the southern part of the city. According to my memories from my past life, the development of this project will drive the growth of the entire district in the future. Chu Yunxiao has been waiting to confront me at my doorstep several times. Seeing it was futile, he simply knelt outside and refused to leave. It started to rain outside. "Young mistress, look at this." "Ignore him, let him kneel." Seeing me emerge, he hurriedly chased after me. "Give me a reason, Lu Xing. At least give me a reason." The rain had soaked through his clothes. The young master, suddenly stripped of his wealth and power, seemed to regard me as his only lifeline. It was just like in a past life. I was pinned in the bathtub, choking on the bitter sting of water. Gasping for air, clutching desperately at his collar, in utter despair, I asked him why. He said, "Someone like you, looking down from your high horse, could never understand the hardship and humiliation I've endured to get here. Bullying Chewy was just an outlet for the darkness I've kept bottled up inside. Who are you to interfere?" Trying to act all superior again, was the only one in this world who could accept my dark side. "And you drove her to her death, you're going to join her." Suddenly forced underwater, I was engulfed by overwhelming suffocation and despair. Through the watery layer, I saw the twisted satisfaction of vengeance on his face, so I turned back, pushed the bodyguard aside, and kicked him straight into the blooming rose bushes. The beautiful flowers, armed with thorns, drew beads of blood that stained his shirt crimson, a stunning kind of beautiful. People like me, who look down from on high, love nothing more than seeing the wretched state of people like you being trampled underfoot. I tilted my head and flashed a vicious smile. He clambered up from the flower bed, a bloody scratch under his eye on his cheek, and asked me with a look of bewildered determination, "Why, you weren't like this before. Do I need a reason to bully you? I'm just finding an outlet for the dark pressure inside me. Who doesn't have a dark side? What are you so upset about? You bullied Chewy and she didn't say anything. Now that I'm bullying you, you should just feel honored. Fight evil with evil, an eye for an eye. Chu Yunxiao, you owe me." 8. I didn't see him for a long time after that day. After returning to school, with Chu Yunxiao gone, Chewy's life became much easier. It's strange, but someone always leaves snacks on my desk, a small bottle of milk or a bag of chips. This morning, I left early on purpose, from outside the classroom door. I watched Xiao Baihua place a freshly baked cookie on the corner of my desk, then quickly run away. "Lu Xing." Someone called my name from behind. I turned around. It was Chu Yunxiao. A small bandage was on his cheek. He was dressed impeccably, his tone flat, devoid of the previous resentment and despair. It was more like him from a past life. "You've come back, haven't you?" He spoke with absolute certainty, standing before me without a trace of remorse. "I know you resent me, but Lu Xing, I've beaten you once. How can you be so sure I won't win a second time?" In that instant, I was certain he had been reborn too. Chu Yunxiao tilted his head slightly, his gaze falling upon Chewy in the classroom, his eyes brimming with tenderness. "For her sake, I have to win, a life for a life. Lu Xing, don't act so innocent." Digging my fingernails into my palm, I tried to calm the surging hatred. "Chu Yunxiao, you're insane." After I finished speaking, I was the first to push the door open and go inside. Chewy's eyes lit up the moment she saw me, but then she spotted Chu Yunxiao behind me, like a rabbit spotting a hawk. She immediately lowered her head again, with affection in his eyes. Chu Yunxiao walked straight over and said in a gentle tone, "I've missed you so much." He then unscrewed his water bottle and poured it all over her textbook. The disconnect between his words and actions was downright pathological. I let out a soft, derisive laugh, my eyes catching the sight of Chewy's fist clenched tight beneath the teacher's desk. He still thought Chewy was that pathetic admirer from a past life, someone who needed his bullying to even survive. But in this world, no genuine affection between sane people is ever born from humiliation. A message suddenly popped up on my phone. Bid for the Southern District project failed. A mysterious party has cut in by partnering with the Kyoto Lin Group, the Lin family. In a past life, Lin Qi, the heiress of the Lin Group, was kidnapped while out. The kidnappers demanded a ransom of 100 million, but she was eventually rescued safely. The whole thing was a huge scandal back then. After hearing she was safe, Chu Yunxiao said to me with a tinge of regret, if someone had rescued that heiress earlier, they'd be set for life. I took one look at the watch on Chu Yunxiao's wrist and the bag on his back, and instantly pieced together what he'd done. In this life or the last, he could never have made it without a woman by his side, but you have to hand it to him. The man has a real talent for living off his partners. 9. 2 days later, the Lin family hosted a special banquet to formally hand over the South City project. As the banquet commenced, Chu Yunxiao, dressed in an impeccable suit, ascended the stage to the gaze of all, with the impeccably attired Miss Lin on his arm. A youthful infatuation naturally blossomed from a dramatic act of life-saving sacrifice. The way Miss Lin looks at him is just the way I used to. Across the sea of people, he made a point of raising his glass in a toast to me, a blatant and brazen provocation. I smiled, though I still felt a twinge of regret for not playing that absurd video. After all, when the other side launches a serious attack, even when you're about to lose it, you have to maintain some decorum for both parties. I waited quietly for the spectacle that was about to unfold. Midway through the banquet, Chu Yi was led into the grand hall. The perfect mask on Chu Yunxiao's face cracked for an instant, and then he heard the person beside him say, "I heard this is your stepsister from the Chu family. I had someone bring her here specially. You don't mind, do you?" Lin Chi was even less tolerant of imperfections than I was. For her to ask like that, she must have dug up something. The lover I regretted so deeply in my past life was right before my eyes, but how could affection ever compare to power and influence? She's just a stepsister, brought in by my father's mistress. I occasionally use her as a punching bag. Care to give it a try? Lin Chi studied his expression, raising a brow slightly, having second thoughts. No sooner had she asked than Chu Yunxiao signaled for the person to be brought to the poolside. I saw with my own eyes Chu Yunxiao turn to Lin Chi, a smile playing on his lips. "Let me show you something fun." He then walked to the edge of the pool and, without a shred of mercy, kicked the person in. Her fingers curled slightly at her side, yet her face was a mask of unmistakable disgust. "Surround the area. If she tries to come up, drive her back down." After he gave the order, Lin Chi was momentarily stunned. No one would believe this was love. A satisfied smile spread across Lin Chi's face, but I knew this kind of humiliation was nothing new for him. It was a regular occurrence in his past life. In her past life, Chu Yi actually relished this cycle of degradation, seeing his subsequent rescue as a personal favor. But that didn't mean the Chu Yi of this lifetime would accept it. The one you love most can become the sharpest blade. I set down my wine glass and beckoned to the person behind me. "Once the crowd thins out a bit, pull him out of the water." When I entered the lounge, Chu Yi was wrapped in a towel, her eyes red-rimmed as she stared at me. "Sis, why is he treating me like this? I don't get it. Last night he suddenly told me he liked me, and today he pushes me into the water." Sitting across from her, I kindly told her the truth. "He likes you." The delicate flower gave a bitter smile, looking at her own sorry state. "That's not what liking someone looks like." I nodded. "True enough. Hatred, on the other hand, can be expressed that way." I took a slight step forward and brushed aside the damp strand of hair from her forehead. "He's bullied you for so long, egging others on, mocking you, tearing up your books, hurling insults, and just now, using your humiliation to curry favor with another woman. Do you still have feelings for him?" Her gaze burned into me like fire, and her voice was resolute as she answered, "I never liked him." 10. With the backing of the Lin family, he became a frequent name in the papers within 2 years, hailed as a rising entrepreneurial star. At the same time, he began his campaign of revenge against me. Soon, stories surfaced online claiming I had bullied a future business tycoon back in high school. In the video, a classmate who seemed to appear out of nowhere said with righteous indignation, "Lu Xing just throws his weight around because his family is rich." She started dating him, then turned competitive when she found out Chu Yunxiao had a sister. She dumped him for being poor and even demanded he pay back all the money spent during their relationship. Not only did she publicly humiliate him, pour glue on his chair, and slap him on a whim, but she also put a venomous snake in his drawer, nearly killing him. This spoiled heiress uses her rich father's influence to run amok. She's absolute scum. Within just 2 days of the video's release, its view count skyrocketed. Protesters showed up at the corporation's offices with banners and eggs, and the company's stock price plummeted. A flood of internet trolls swarmed the company's official Weibo, ranting that I was unworthy of my position and unfit to inherit the business. I looked at my father, feeling I had failed him in every lifetime. "Kid, don't be scared, your old man's got your back. Don't listen to that online nonsense." I lowered my gaze, swallowing back the sob in my throat, and forced a smile. "Just you wait, Dad, I won't lose." With the business partner snatched away, backed by the Lin family and fueled by public opinion, I was quickly branded a disgrace. Hashtag Lucian bullying. Hashtag Chuyunsha Lucian what goes around comes around. Instant karma. Since so many people tagged me and all pretense of civility was gone, I just went ahead and compiled the cringe edit I made earlier and posted it. "Your inspirational business idol." The video shows him foaming at the mouth and convulsing, set to demonic music, with his SpongeBob SquarePants underwear making frequent cameos. It also features the $1.50 bracelet he gave me when we were dating, along with his heartfelt line, "As a return gift for this token of our love, why don't you give me your dad's Rolex?" The view count is astronomical. It was like I handed them the smoking gun myself. The torrent of abuse grew even more overwhelming, with some people even calling to tell me to drop dead. A few voices did question, even though Lu Xing is rich, isn't it a bit shameless to trade a measly 9 yuan for someone else's million yuan gift in a relationship? Comments on this thread were quickly flooded and buried. I turned off my phone and quietly watched the neon lights outside the window. It's almost time, isn't it? For someone so obsessed with saving face, having their fragile pride shattered, then gaining a powerful backer while keeping their beloved close, like a caged pet, it's time to deal with me. The only stain left. 11. I was kidnapped soon after. Dust hung thick in the abandoned factory. The rope binding my hands behind my back was tied far too tightly, the pain forcing a grimace onto my face. Chu Yunxiao entered. Silhouetted against the light, a look of smug finality on his face. Lu Sheng, look at you. Even with a second chance, you still end up losing to me. With a look of mock fear on my face, I sneered, a second chance? You've been reading too many novels. What, you think me not liking you anymore is the start of some rebirth story? Wake up. Chu Yunxiao raised an eyebrow slightly. He hesitated for a moment, then asked tentatively, you didn't reincarnate? Impossible. If you didn't, why aren't you still in love with me like you were in your past life? Why aren't you trying to stop me from bullying others? The rope behind me was tied too tight. I couldn't break free. I pushed sideways with all my strength. The chair lost its balance, and I tumbled to the ground in a clumsy heap. The cloud of dust I kicked up made me cough twice. Are you insane? What good would stopping you do? You'd just go home and pick on them anyway. In that case, I might as well bully you instead. What? Have you forgotten how it feels to have your pants down? What kind of nonsense are you spouting? He looked at me with confusion at first, but upon seeing my flustered and impotent rage, he relaxed into a smile. No wonder you didn't give me a straight answer in the hallway that day. Sitting across from me, he tilted his head and loosened his tie, his tone dripping with condescension. I was going to end you right away, but before you die, you deserve to know why. I cried out with a look of terror on my face. You want to kill me, Chu Yunxiao? You're insane. Murder is a crime. I can get my father to give you a lot of money. Just let me go. Look, if you're really mad, I'll just take the video down and apologize. Please don't kill me. The final syllable was drawn out pitifully long, just like a helpless, pampered heiress facing danger. Seeing me like this, Chu Yunxiao seemed to confirm something and grew even more brazen. Lu Sheng, look at yourself. Ha ha ha. You're so stupid. If you don't like me, is it because you've hooked up with the one next to you? I have absolutely no idea who he's talking about. Sometimes, there's just no communicating with a man who lives off women. Deep down, he believes he needs a woman to climb the social ladder, so he naturally assumes I must need a man to cling to. What did you say? Let go of me, if you dare lay a hand on me. My father will make you pay. He tilted his head, brimming with excitement. Your father? I was the one who personally put him away in our last life. Oh, you didn't know that, did you? I've been reborn. In our previous life, I spent years bending over backwards to please you. The very day I finally married you, I drowned you in the bathtub. You were still asking me why, as you died. Lu Sheng, tell me, aren't you just pathetic? I stared at him in disbelief. What the hell are you talking about? He walked over, crouched down in front of me, and let his hand wander along the side of my face, a playful glint in his eyes. God always favors me. Lu Sheng, want to know why I'm going to kill you? Because you stopped me from bullying Chui. Someone like you could never understand. Love can only exist through pain. We loved each other so much, but because of your self-righteous help, she killed herself. His gaze towards me turned sharp, as if he was recalling his own persona of a devoted lover. She loved me so much. In this whole world, she was the only one who could accept my dark side, who could accept all of me. Lu Sheng, you're the one who deserves to die. 12. After he finished speaking, he straightened up, his gaze now completely devoid of any emotion as he looked at me. The only regret from my past life was that you died too soon, and your deadbeat father, fresh out of prison, went at me like a rabid dog, taking us both down. But don't you worry, in this life, I won't give him that chance. Die. As he finished speaking, a gunshot rang out. Warm blood splattered onto my face. The person in front of me clutched their wound, half kneeling on the ground, and looked back in disbelief. The one who fired the shot from behind was Chui. You're the one who deserves to die, you fool. To hell with your love and pain coexisting. No one in their right mind would ever love you. Dressed in a white dress, her hand holding the gun was trembling. After shouting those curses, she stumbled toward me, her eyes red like a frantic rabbit's. Sis, the bullet Chu Yunxiao took hit him in the abdomen. It wasn't immediately fatal if treated in time. As Chui passed by, she even stepped on his hand. Sis, are you okay? Don't scare me like this. Her eyes red, she frantically worked to untie the ropes behind my back. A sudden warmth spread at her wrist. But the knot wouldn't give. The little rabbit grew frantic, trying to gnaw it with her teeth. Why? Chu Yunxiao lay on the ground, clutching his wound, his eyes wide as he stared in this direction. I shot him a provocative grin, freed the rope, and pulled the anxious girl behind me into my arms. Well, it's because I just don't love you. Adding insult to injury, he was so furious he coughed up another mouthful of blood as the police entered behind him. His talk of rebirth was enough to secure his survival and allow him to contribute to the nation's technological advancement. This was the ending I had planned for him from the very beginning. Every evasive answer, every refusal to intervene or overstep, was all preparation for today. Arrogant, unrestrained, and flamboyant, the perfect persona for a wealthy heiress, and the least likely to raise suspicion. This world does not tolerate rule breakers. Especially not so-called protagonists who are reincarnated or dimension hoppers. Once discovered, it will be contained. This is the consensus of all NPCs in the world. Side story. After Chu Yunxiao was taken away, the Lin family also came under attack. Those who seek to monopolize power by attaching themselves to so-called reborn individuals must pay the price. Gradually, people began to speak up for me. Chu Yi opened a personal account and shared her story of being bullied. My sister was never a bad person. She knew that simply stopping him wouldn't work. Chu Yunxiao would just bully me again when she wasn't around, so she fought back using his own methods. She was the only light in my painful memories, my salvation. That's why I later agreed to work with her, going undercover by Chu Yunxiao's side to jointly gather evidence of his corruption and illegal activities. To publicly blacklist Chu Yunxiao, we need some plausible charges. The evidence Chu Yi gathered will come in handy. The more I watched this video, the deeper my frown became. I opened the comments section, and it was just a parade of people shipping them. Oh my god, isn't this just a fairy tale romance? Two women join forces, plotting a spectacular revenge. They bide their time, strike with precision, and take down the scumbag for good. Absolutely iconic. The legendary tale of an innocent wallflower and a domineering heiress, and my dad even liked the third one. Someone knocked on the door, and I put down my phone. Come in. It was the HR manager. Director, the candidate for your personal assistant has been selected. She's waiting outside. Would you like to meet her? I gave a nod, straightened my suit, and when I looked up, a woman in a perfectly tailored suit stood before me. Good morning, Director Liu. I'm the new assistant, Chu Yi. Her gaze was reverent and bright with delight, though she seemed a bit nervous. Her voice trembling slightly at the end, I offered a faint smile. If Chu Yunxiao was worthy of God's favor and a second chance, then she certainly was. I propped my head up and looked at her. Come here, my little assistant. The end. Story 2. Lin Xiangyu's whispered love only made me relive 99 lifetimes for him. On our 98th rebirth, we finally tied the knot, only for him to cheat with his secretary. The story's heroine, in our second year of marriage, mission failed. Cancer claimed me once again. This is the penalty for failed quests. The cruel destiny of white moonlight tropes. An early grave is all I deserve. The protagonist's love story was never mine to rewrite. When love turns to hatred, I activated my final rebirth. This time, I chose to die in the year he loved me most. 1. Give up, host. The system's mechanical tone carried a hint of resignation. You can't alter the original storyline. It accompanied me through 99 rebirths. From initial fervor to the current calmness without a ripple, I said, I don't want to have any regrets. The only response was the mechanical click of a rewinding clock. A blinding white flash followed. When I opened my eyes to a notebook filled with Lin Xiangyu scribbles, I knew I'd been thrown back to my 18-year-old self. This was my final chance to rewrite my doomed fate. After this, even the system will abandon me. When even Lin Xiangyu forgets me, I'll vanish completely from this world. I've tried every possible method, only one remains. I raised my hand and slowly tore the paper before me. A name is the shortest incantation. I've spent my entire life trapped by these three characters. Lin Xiangyu. Perhaps it's time I tried one final solution. To stop loving him. Hello everyone, I'm Sangyu. The female lead who shouldn't have appeared at this moment was now standing at the podium. Introducing herself as the new transfer student, I spent all my credits on the plot accelerator just to align our three timelines. Our eyes met, and Sangyu flashed me a warm smile. I returned the gesture with a slight nod, when suddenly a sharp pain shot through my chest. I know this feeling of rapid deterioration all too well. The classmate who'd been sleeping through 3 lectures suddenly lifted his head and asked, Shali, are you having heart trouble again? The boy kept a straight face as he deftly retrieved emergency heart pills from his bag's hidden compartment, poured warm water from his thermos, urged me to take the medication, then cupped my hands in his to warm them. Just that momentary shortness of breath. Lin Xiangyu noticed it immediately. I've had poor health since childhood, born with a congenital heart condition. While most 18-year-old boys carry textbooks, comics, or lighters in their bags, his backpack was always stocked with my medicine. But who would have guessed that after my heart condition was cured, I'd end up dying from metastasized malignant tumors? I shook my head and introduced Sangyu, who was stepping down from the podium. This is our new transfer student. Lin Xiangyu lifted his eyes absent-mindedly, but then his gaze froze, as if the world had stopped, yet his heart kept beating. Even I, a mere bystander, could see the stagnant pool in his eyes suddenly come alive with animation, inevitable, yet utterly helpless. Their eyes parted after a fleeting moment, as if that brief exchange had never happened. Sensing my discomfort, Lin Xiangyu's eyes darkened as he took my hand under the desk. What's it to me? I don't care about others. I forced a smile and asked him, really? Then why are your eyes avoiding mine? Too, Lin Xiangyu and I have known each other since childhood. Everyone knew he'd adored only me since childhood, willing to give me everything. My poor health made me realize early that I could never bear children. My body couldn't sustain another life draining its limited vitality. Childbirth would likely kill me. My doting parents decided to pamper me at home, leaving adoption or spinsterhood entirely to my choice. The Lin family was deeply traditional, placing utmost importance on bloodline continuity. After learning about my circumstances, they never mentioned the arranged marriage again. In families like ours, marriage alliances are typically arranged at a very young age. At Lin Xiangyu's 18th birthday party, I watched helplessly as his mother introduced him to her friend's daughter, biting my lip in silent despair. But the very next day, word got out that the match had fallen through, leaving Madame Lin absolutely furious. At dusk, Lin Xiangyu smiled at me by the back gate of the small garden. I could clearly see the swollen red slap mark on his cheek. Turns out he'd rushed back to the ancestral home last night, knelt before the elders and vowed to marry no one but me. His dramatic protest so enraged his father that the man invoked family discipline, thrashing him before the ancestral shrine with a thumbthick rattan cane. Yet the stubborn fool clenched his teeth without uttering a single groan. Lin Xiangyu knelt through the night until dawn. When his distraught mother finally released him, he came staggering to me the moment he was free. Reaching through the railing, he took my hand and whispered softly, I don't care for children, having descendants means little to me, but you must take care of your health and live a long life with me. Shali, I want no one else, only you. I was sobbing uncontrollably, looking even more pitiful than Lin Xiangyu who'd just been beaten. Though his fingers trembled with pain, he patiently wiped my tears again and again. Don't cry. Your heart condition can't handle such strong emotions. This was Lin Xiangyu at 18, the man who haunted my dreams and destroyed me countless times, yet who could have guessed we'd marry, remain childless for 3 years, only for him to cheat with his secretary, Sangyu. The moment Sangyu got pregnant, he couldn't wait to file for divorce. Even through the phone, I could picture him frowning slightly with that detached expression. Shali, I need a wife who can bear and raise my heirs. I couldn't speak on the other end of the line. I was hunched over the sink, vomiting blood in violent spurts that bloomed crimson in the water, my whole body reeking of decay and despair. That was the moment everything became crystal clear to me. True feelings are as fleeting as the wind. The white moonlight should be preserved in formaldehyde at her most perfect moment. 3. Shali, wait for me at the door. When I was a child waiting for my driver at the school gate, I was nearly kidnapped by traffickers. Since then, Lin Xiangyu never lets me out of his sight in public. Lin Xiangyu was a competition student who'd stop by the teacher's office every afternoon for extra problem sets. I'd wait outside the office, then we'd walk home together. This routine lasted a full decade. I nodded obediently, but the moment he stepped inside, I turned on my heel and headed straight for the classroom. Sangyu stayed behind in the classroom to study. Since she'd greeted me proactively this morning, she seemed more approachable with me than with other classmates. She looked up with a smile. Shali, why are you still here? I took out Lin Xiangyu's MP3 player from my backpack. I've got an emergency and need to leave. Could you give this to Lin Xiangyu for me? At the mention of that name, a faint blush crept up Sangyu's ears as she answered without hesitation. Before leaving, I glanced back one last time. The girl stealthily put on her headphones, unaware of the barely contained excitement dancing across her lips. That night at the garden's back gate, Lin Xiangyu asked why I hadn't waited for him. Instead of answering, I countered, Did Sangyu return your MP3 player? He froze momentarily, his expression flickering with unease. Got it. Then, as if deliberately changing the subject, Lin Xiangyu lifted me over the railing and growled in mock sternness. You'd better wait for me next time, got it? I thought something happened to you again. I was worried sick. Later, I opened Neddy's Cloud Music, found Lin Xiangyu's account, and noticed he'd followed one more person. Even his playlist now includes a few R&B ballads he rarely listens to. Pressing a hand against my increasingly unbearable stomach pain, I gave a tight-lipped smile. So even when he's worried about me, he still shares playlists with the female lead. From that day onward, Lin Xiangyu and Songyu grew closer. They were all competition students, seeing each other frequently with plenty of shared interests, often gathering after class to discuss problems. That's when I began distancing myself from Lin Xiangyu. He soon realized I no longer relied on him or waited after school. Even when he lingered by my garden gate till midnight, my silhouette never appeared in the bedroom window. I'd leave early during the day, and by dusk I'd be straight into my family's chauffeur-driven car. Lin couldn't intercept me even if he tried. The next day at school, I asked my teacher to transfer me to the special talent class. Lin Xiangyu completely panicked. After class, he stopped me at the hallway corner with red-rimmed eyes. Xiaoli, I'll change whatever I did wrong. Just please stop torturing me like this. You've fallen for someone else. Lin Xiangyu froze, then blurted out, I never liked Songyu in the first place. Only when he saw the faint smile on my face did the realization slowly dawn on him. I gently pushed him away, my breathing steady. Didn't we agree? If you fall for someone else, we'll leave the past behind. No one's life ends just because they lose someone. You deserve a better, healthier wife in the future. I won't cling to you. Lin Xiangyu's eyes reddened further, his expression bordering on pleading. Xiaoli, I don't want anyone else. As my expression gradually turned icy. How could Lin Xiangyu not recognize this as my waning patience? Once I set my mind to something, I'd rather break than bend, otherwise I wouldn't have reincarnated for him countless times. Now that I've resolved to leave him, nothing will change that. I turned to leave, only for Lin Xiangyu to seize my wrist, pinning me against the wall in a breath-stealing kiss. His usually defiant eyes glistened with unshed tears as he whispered against my ear, again and again, Xiaoli, it's only you I want. You're the only one. I stood transfixed, staring at Sangyu's reflection in the window pane just behind me. Lin Xiangyu had seen her. His body stiffened slightly as he held me tighter, his tone solemn like a vow. Xiaoli, you're the only one for me. But the word only is too absolute, an inherently flawed answer. For, Lin Xiangyu realized his changing heart, and his guilt toward me peaked, to prove his unwavering devotion. He redoubled his efforts to please me, crossing half the city for limited edition cakes I craved, never straying more than an arm's length away, even cutting all ties with Sangyu. To all this, I simply replied with calm detachment, you don't have to do this for me. During my 50-second rebirth, I too had succumbed to the temptation of Lin Xiangyu's kindness, mistaking his guilt for my protective talisman. But extremes meet. Such suffocating devotion ultimately becomes a dagger pointed at my heart. At the end of that day, Lin Xiangyu looked at me with weary eyes. I've given you so much. Why are you never satisfied? Xiaoli, being with you is exhausting. No matter what I did was wrong, so I decided to do nothing at all. Yet he became increasingly desperate to make it up to me, trying to turn back time. These days, my health has been its usual self, neither great nor terrible. But during the college entrance exam physical, they still detected abnormal signals in my body, turning Lin Xiangyu's face ghostly pale. Fortunately, it turned out to be just a benign tumor. My parents immediately decided to send me to the best hospital for surgery. The surgery went surprisingly smooth, almost unbelievably so. When I woke up the next afternoon, my dad asked, Lily, Xiangyu's waiting outside. Should I let him in? Seeing me shake my head, my mother bit back her words. He's been keeping vigil outside for a full day and night, wouldn't listen to anyone who tried to persuade him otherwise. Lin Xiangyu hadn't slept a wink all night. When he entered the room disheveled, with bloodshot eyes, my parents still present, he half knelt by the hospital bed and gingerly reached out to touch my face. Does it hurt? I fell silent for a moment, closing my weary eyes. Lin Xiangyu, just go home. Stunned, he dropped to his knees, trembling hands clutching the sheets as Lin Xiangyu spoke hoarsely, Xiaoli, don't treat me like this. I turned my face away. Stop this. You only still care for me now because you can't let go of all those years of devotion. I don't want to wait until our love fades completely, leaving us with nothing but resentment. So let's cut our losses and stop here. Xiaoli, after what felt like an eternity, I noticed a dampness on the back of my hand. When I looked up, Lin Xiangyu's face was streaked with silent tears, his shoulders shaking with suppressed sobs. The sole heir of the Lin family, The teacher's favorite, the golden boy in everyone's eyes, Lin Xiangyu, who hadn't shed a single tear even when his father disciplined him with rattan canes until his back was lacerated, was now crying, for me. His tears fell onto the back of my hand again before I snapped back to reality and abruptly withdrew my hand. Lin Xiangyu growled at me. The blood's flowing back, don't move. He cupped the 4-tube with his hand, trying to warm the medicine with his body heat. My heart ached with a pang I hadn't felt in so long. Enough, Lin Xiangyu, we won't make it to the end. Lin Xiangyu's eyes reddened despite himself, stubborn and resolute. The fire in his gaze burned so intensely it nearly scorched me. He pulled me into a careful embrace. We absolutely will stay together forever. I believe his love for me in that moment was grand enough to make eternal vows slip effortlessly from his lips. An 18-year-old boy's sincerity shines brighter than diamonds, rings truer than pearls, but that's about it. My gaze dropped to Lin Xiangyu's uniform collar, where the initials SY were embroidered in pink thread. I caught a whiff of jasmine the moment he approached me. Floral scents have never been my thing. They give me headaches. I usually go for aquatic or woody fragrances. For 10 years, Sangyu's love has remained as constant as the scent of jasmine. Even a decade later when she became his secretary, that same fragrance still lingered on Lin Xiangyu, cutting ties when necessary. I stood firm beneath Lin Xiangyu's shattered gaze, reaching out. I pried his fingers apart one by one. Don't come looking for me again. 5. Shelly, I went to the hospital earlier but you were still unconscious. I saw Lin Xiangyu outside your room wearing just a thin jacket in this freezing weather, so I gave him my coat. Lin Xiangyu called Sangyu to have her explain the coat situation to me. After hanging up, he looked up at me pleading innocence, but I couldn't be the only one who heard the suppressed hurt in Sangyu's voice. I spoke in a cold tone. Do you find this amusing? No one forced you to dress like that. No one made you wait outside for me. You're a grown adult with sound judgment. Yet you take your frustration out on innocent people. Is this your idea of fun? I can't stand this side of you. Stubborn, willful, never listening, and always blaming others in the end. Lin Xiangyu froze, then slowly lowered his head like a chastened child. I wonder if he's thinking about Sangyu or me right now, but I can't be bothered to dwell on it. I'm exhausted by this endless emotional turmoil. This is my final rebirth, and I won't waste it on someone I've already decided to leave behind. Besides, if this drags on, I'll inevitably end up being the one to blame. Seeing Lin Xiangyu's reluctance to leave, I pressed the nurse call button by my bedside to have him escorted out. Then I pulled the covers over my head, unable to bear the fragility in his eyes any longer. True to form, Lin Xiangyu ignored my plea. He kept showing up outside my hospital room daily, though never daring to step inside again. 2 weeks later, I was discharged, fully recovered, and returned to school. I'd studied piano since childhood but stayed in regular classes for Lin Xiangyu's sake. Now transferred to the arts program, my new classroom was in another building where I rarely crossed paths with other students. The teaching building backs onto the school's rear hill, where a grove of peach trees grows. Though it wasn't blossom season, young couples still frequented the spot for secret rendezvous. That evening, I spotted Lin Xiangyu and Sangyu from the upper floor. But contrary to my expectations, without me in the way, they actually seemed more distant. Sangyu's face flushed crimson as her lips, glossed in apricot pink, parted hesitantly, apparently confessing to Lin Xiangyu. But the next moment, Lin shook his head and turned to leave, clutching his hand. Sangyu's voice rose uncontrollably. If you don't like me, why did you carry me to the infirmary when I was sick? Why chase off those thugs harassing me? Why promise to take me stargazing on the back hill? So the plot had thickened in my absence. Lin Xiangyu didn't even look back. Friends do these things too. You're reading too much into it. Kexiali doesn't like you anymore, and I don't like you either. Just then, the teacher walked over and tapped on the piano. Focus on your own practice. I averted my gaze and resumed practicing the piece I'd prepared for the competition. As the final notes faded, I glanced toward the hills again. Lin Xiangyu had already left, while Sangyu remained standing there, haphazardly wiping her tears with her hands. Sensing my gaze, she suddenly looked up. Our eyes met. Her smile mirrored our first encounter, lips curving without reaching her eyes. It felt as though everything was slipping beyond the script's control. But I know the plot will always return to its course. As in all my rebirths, every branching choice ultimately converges to the same destination. No one has the right to call me heartless. 6. I packed my bag and left the music room. Only then did I notice Lin Xiangyu waiting downstairs for me. His Adam's apple bobbed as his eyes reddened uncontrollably. Why didn't you tell me you were back? Nothing worth mentioning about going to school. Lin Xiangyu stood awkwardly before me, his hand twitching several times as if wanting to reach out, yet fearing I'd push him away again. He pressed a crimson embroidered pouch into my palm. I recognized it as a consecrated artifact from Qingshan Temple in the outskirts, a millennium-old monastery that rarely receives visitors. The last person who obtained such a relic had to kneel and kowtow up every step of the mountain path for his terminally ill wife before the temple gates finally opened. Having once sought blessings for Lin Xiangyu myself, I understood the profound significance behind this gesture. To claim my heart remained unmoved would be a lie. It's less about compassion and more about resentment. I lowered my eyes. I won't take it. This kindness is too much for me to accept. You'd better give it back to your mother. I begged for this for your sake. Lin Xiangyu was visibly losing emotional control. After a few seconds, he pursed his lips and lowered his voice, his faltering tone sounding almost pleading. Xiaoli, you'll come to Beijing with me, won't you? Just do it for me. Within 2 weeks. The school's recommendation quotas were announced. Though my academic scores weren't as good as Lin Xiangyu's, I still made it into the Central Conservatory of Music. So many times I made choices like this, just to stay close to him. After a long pause, I smiled wryly. Lin Xiangyu, don't you realize how selfish you're being? Why must my world revolve around you? If you truly cared about me, shouldn't you support my dreams? You take your high road, I'll take my narrow path. We owe each other nothing. There's no way Lin Xiangyu would willingly let me go, but prideful as he was, he couldn't muster any rebuttal. At 18, he lacked all the composure of a 28-year-old. A single careless remark from me shattered his heart. That devastated look returned to his face, as if his soul was being crushed. After boarding the van, I pulled out the documents from my teacher without ever glancing his way. Lin Xiangyu remained unaware that I was already completing study abroad applications, with my parents agreeing to eventually emigrate with me. I just wanted to compete one last time domestically to secure a prestigious award that would pave the way for my future. The white moonlight always either goes abroad or dies. As long as I stay away from the main couple, the plot is truly over. Once I leave this country, I won't be coming back. I have places I want to go to. On my way home. The long absence system suddenly spoke. Host, the plot has completely derailed. Once the male lead deviates 100% from the original storyline, our mission will be complete. A faint tremor passed through my heart. Could things possibly get any worse? 7. That evening, Madame Lin came to our house in tears, pouring her heart out to my mother. Lin Xiangyu gave up her guaranteed admission through competitions, choosing to take the college entrance exam route instead. Probably because she wanted more options, to attend the same university as me. Thankfully, I'd already warned my mom not to breathe a word about my study abroad plans. We exchanged a knowing glance. Mom stayed silent, offering only comforting reassurance. With tears in her eyes, Madame Lin looked at me before leaving. Lily, Xiangyu never listens to anyone since childhood. Only you can rein him in. Please talk him out of this foolishness. Even my mother sighed after she left. Lily, I don't know what's happened between you two, but don't gamble with your future like this. A parent's word is law. All I could promise was to go find him after the competition ended. To my surprise, Lin Xiangyu came looking for me first. In the dead of night, a freezing sleep began pattering down. I woke inexplicably, and when I lifted the curtain, there stood a shadowy figure by the garden's back gate, throwing on my coat. I rushed to the back door and started scolding without a second thought. Lin Xiangyu, have you lost your mind? It's freezing out here. If you want to die, don't do it on my doorstep. Rain or tears streaked his face as he choked out. Xiaoli, I dreamed that after we parted, I married Songyu and had children. Years later, I only learned from my mother that you'd already died, late-stage cancer. That nightmare keeps replaying. Sometimes you're already gone, other times I'm holding your lifeless body. The pain, it's like knives carving into my heart. I couldn't even breathe. I just wanted to follow you into death. His arms locked around me through the railing. For those few seconds, our heartbeats synchronized. What Lin Xiangyu described were events I'd relived through countless rebirths. My heart skipped a beat as I instinctively pushed away his drenched form. Just a dream. With those words, I fled in panic. I dread the resurgence of hope that could alter the plot. I dread hope itself. The greater it grows, the deeper the despair. Lin Xiangyu finally collapsed, burning with fever for 3 days before coming around. Madame Lin said this illness nearly cost him half his life. From that day on, Lin Xiangyu haunted my classroom like a persistent ghost, lingering outside daily. There was a subtle change about him, though I couldn't pinpoint what. Even if I spoke, it would only be to tell him to go back and secure his guaranteed admission. No more pipe dreams. Lin Xiangyu lowered his gaze, concealing the profound grief in his eyes. On the few occasions Sanyu came to see him, their conversations were brief before she left. Lin Xiangyu's tone was icy, treating her like a complete stranger. Before leaving, Sanyu looked at me, the resentment in her eyes growing more intense by the day. I turned a blind eye. I knew that look all too well. The way she bit back tears, the disappointment and humiliation. 8. Sanyu came to me when Lin Xiangyu fell ill for the second time. The usually bright-eyed girl looked at me with sorrow before lowering her head. Shali, the truth is we're living inside a novel. I'm the female lead of this story. Lin Xiangyu must fall in love with me, or he'll die. But you're derailing the original plot. So now he's breaking free from the script's control for your sake. If this continues, he'll die sooner or later. Yet he refuses to see me. You don't want to see him die either. Do you? That's when I realized, the system never left me a way out. If I stay with Lin Xiangyu, he dies. If we part, I die. No wonder writers always say fate plays cruel tricks, acting as a merciless executioner. It wasn't that I hadn't noticed Lin Xiangyu's declining health. In just a few months, his complexion grew paler, his oversized school uniform hung emptily, and the arms that once carried lean muscle now looked gaunt and skeletal, just like how I used to be. But hearing it confirmed from Sangyu's lips still made my heart clench. After a dazed moment, I collected myself and asked quietly, what was my original ending in the plot? Sangyu hesitated for a few seconds before meeting my gaze. You left the country and never returned. We all moved on to our own happy lives. Had I not been reborn, even I might have fallen for those innocent-looking eyes of hers. I'd long realized this so-called heroine was never the benevolent character she pretended to be. Why else would she cross moral boundaries to carry on with Lin Xiangyu, a married man? Time and again, she'd accidentally send me suggestive texts, constantly implying that in love, the one unloved becomes the outsider. In my past life, the last time I saw Sanyu, she was wearing an elegant little dress while escorting Lin Xiangyu home. Her gaze held the same unguarded honesty then as it does now. She made no attempt to explain their interlaced fingers or the intimate pet names he kept murmuring. But now she's barely in her teens, already shrinking under my stare. I took a quiet breath. Really, I thought white moonlight only shines on the dead. Sangyu's lashes fluttered as she kept her eyes downcast. I just smiled. Sangyu, does your conscience ever ache when you lie? Panic flashed in her eyes at being exposed. According to the original plot, you and Lin Xiangyu could only be together without obstacles after the so-called white moonlight, died. But now not only am I still alive, I don't even want to be with him anymore. So the problem shifts to Lin Xiangyu. Don't you think the existence of this female lead is particularly inconvenient? Actually, you're the unnecessary one here. You're like a malignant tumor growing between me and Lin Xiangyu. If the plot hadn't forced your story with him, neither of us would be in this mess. But I refuse to die now, and I refuse to be with him. The one who ruined him like this is clearly you. Don't you think you're the one who should die instead? All the words I'd been holding back finally came pouring out in one breath. No matter what happened in the past, I've never had much interaction with Sangyu, because I knew Lin Xiangyu's heart was the real ticking time bomb in this story. Had she not come knocking on my door, I probably wouldn't have said these things like some petty villainess. Since the plot's already gone off the rails, let's just watch this train wreck burn to the ground. I'm just a minor character, the white moonlight with barely any screen time. What can I possibly do? You're the female lead here. With great power comes great responsibility. Shouldn't you be the one pulling out all the stops to save the male lead? How could I possibly steal your spotlight? Leave me alone. I slammed the door shut in Sanyu's stunned face. 9. Lin Xiangyu truly resembled a withering tree, his vitality draining day by day, yet even after consulting the nation's top specialists, no medical explanation could be found. In the end, they simply said it was psychological distress manifesting as severe somatic symptoms. Madame Lin came to my doorstep herself, begging me to see him. Through tears, she said, "That child keeps insisting he must break free from this script, or he'll fail you and be the death of you. He'd rather die in your place." That was how I saw Lin Xiangyu again. His gaunt cheeks were paper pale, lying so still on the hospital bed that he seemed breathless in his light sleep. His entire being radiated the aura of someone terminally ill. At the sound of my soft footsteps, Lin Xiangyu's eyes fluttered open as he murmured to Mrs. Lin by his bedside, "I dreamed Shali came to see me." Seeing the sorrow etched on his mother's face, he turned sluggishly toward me standing at the hospital room door. "Shali, am I still dreaming?" Mrs. Lin wiped her tears and discreetly left us alone. I broke the silence first. "Lin Xiangyu, are you really not going to outlive my birthday?" The words may sound harsh, but truth be told, I'm a complete mess inside. Having loved Lin Xiangyu countless times before, how could I possibly resist him now, lying frail on that hospital bed? Especially when it's the 18-year-old version of him who loved me most. We'd agreed it would be me who died. How did our roles get reversed? His eyelids fluttered slowly as his pale lips trembled, finally forming hoarse words after a long pause. Not dying. I promised to celebrate Shali's birthday. Is that okay? There was a time when we never needed to ask permission. Our bond was such that I'd agree to anything without hesitation. When did someone so proud ever humble himself to dust for another? Seeing my silence, the faint light in Lin Xiangyu's eyes flickered out like a snuffed candle. If it were the 28-year-old Lin Xiangyu standing before me, my heart wouldn't feel like it's being gouged out with a knife. I gave a slight nod and let out a slow breath. All right, on my birthday last year, Lin Xiangyu commissioned a fireworks display grand enough to light up the entire city, dazzling, magnificent, and fleeting. Under the night sky illuminated bright as day, he confessed his love to me. My phone vibrated faintly in my pocket, a text from Sanyu. The less you love Lin Xiangyu, the more he deviates from the plot, and his life force keeps draining away. As the male lead of this world, if the protagonists don't fall in love, this world loses its reason to exist. Only by returning to the original storyline and making him love me will everything truly return to normal. I walked out of the hospital room muttering, you're insane. Why does this world have to be so unfair? 10. Lin Xiangyu recovered quickly. He was terrified of passing his illness to me, and even more afraid of missing my birthday. Lin Xiangyu anticipated it more eagerly than anyone else, so much so that on my birthday, he couldn't wait to knock on my door, insisting we watch the once-in-a-lifetime meteor shower. Little did he know, we've watched this once-in-a-millennium meteor shower together 100 times over. The mountaintop was heavy with night dew, scattered with sparse stars as I counted down to the meteor shower on my rocky perch. Though merely a finger's breadth apart, Lin Xiangyu and I might as well have been separated by the Milky Way. His phone rang when the countdown reached 10 minutes. I caught a fleeting glimpse of the character saying. Lin Xiangyu initially hung up once, but the calls kept coming in rapid succession. In the final minute, as he was about to power off in frustration, I calmly remarked, "What if she's got something urgent to tell you?" Lin Xiangyu hesitated for a few seconds before putting the call on speaker in front of me. Sangyu's trembling voice came through the speaker. "Xiangyu, my dad's drunk again. He knocked my mom out and now he's banging on my door. I'm so scared. Please come help me." The violent pounding on the door was clearly audible as she spoke. The heroine remains the heroine because she rose from the mud yet kept her spirit bright and hopeful. Had I not accidentally seen the financial aid application in the office, I would never have known that Sanyu grew up in a household shrouded in darkness and hardship. No wonder Lin Xiangyu used to frown at me with accusation in his eyes. You have everything, while Sanyu only has me. Why must you compete with her? Men always pity the more vulnerable woman. Lin Xiangyu stared fixedly ahead, his gaze unfocused. He spoke in a hoarse voice, "Call the police." "I'm not a cop. How am I supposed to save you?" After hanging up, Lin Xiangyu's breathing grew noticeably ragged. I could tell he couldn't stay still any longer. With just 1 minute left on the countdown, Lin Xiangyu suddenly looked up from her phone and took my hand. "No meteor shower tonight," she said. "Let's head back." I chuckled softly and nodded in agreement. The winding mountain road was treacherous. Lin drove with reckless urgency, missing several sharp turns where I bumped against the door, and failing to notice the meteor shower that had just begun. He drove me home and left in such a hurry that he didn't even greet my parents. I knew Lin Xiangyu was going to find Sanyu. With Sanyu suffering so deeply, there was no way he could remain indifferent. If only he knew, not only did he miss the meteor shower, but the love of his life passed from a heart attack after he left. I can't imagine how devastated he must be. This is my revenge against him after countless rebirths. 11. During the timeline's collapse, I've accumulated substantial system points. When I checked the store, the total surpassed all 99 of my previous rebirths combined. I redeemed the most expensive item, a second chance at life in this world. This legendary failsafe artifact exists because most targets only realize their love and regret peak after the protagonist's death, when the system has already erased them. With this, I can complete the mission posthumously and be reborn, priced beyond most players' reach. It fell into my hands only because Lin Xiangyu insisted on breaking script. How pitiful and ironic. Upon returning home, I lay on the bed and quietly ceased breathing. It wasn't until my parents came back that evening that they found me, cold and motionless. Lin Xiangyu returned from Sanyu's place late at night, just in time to see the ambulance driving away. He panicked instantly. "Auntie, what's wrong? Is Shali sick?" My mother gave him a long, weary look, her face haggard with exhaustion. "Shali is dead." Lin Xiangyu stood frozen in the garden as if struck by lightning, gazing silently into the room with tear-filled eyes brimming with sorrow. How could this be? We were just watching, just together. My father held my nearly collapsing mother and said solemnly, "The death has been confirmed. Lily always wanted to see the northern lights in Iceland. We'll fulfill her final wish, no burial or cremation here. We won't be returning after this. You shouldn't grieve too much." Lin Xiangyu collapsed to her knees with a thud, his mouth hung open, yet not a sound escaped for the longest time. But I heard the profoundest sorrow. My parents chartered a flight overnight to take my casket abroad, leaving Lin Xiangyu without even a final glimpse of me. In the end, I died in the very year he loved me most. The system's voice echoed in my ears. Mission accomplished. Host disengaging from storyline immediately. Songyu's father had actually been sober for a while, but with cravings taking over, he'd stand outside the alleyway tavern every day, gazing longingly. I arranged for someone to pose as a drinking buddy and lure him inside, though alcohol made him violent, prone to impulsively abusing his wife and daughter. That night's drunken stupor left him too weak to kick down Songyu's door, let alone assault her mother. Overwhelmed by her sensitivity, she dialed Lin Xiangyu's number in a panic. I know this feeling of rapid deterioration all too well. What would Lin Xiangyu think of Dai Mei? He'd probably loathe himself, and resent Songyu even more for making us miss the once-in-a-lifetime meteor shower. Songyu was no longer the indelible mark branded over Lin Xiangyu's heart. One remains forever haunted by the unattainable desires of youth. A month later, the scheduled text message I'd set up was delivered to Lin Xiangyu's phone. "Happy New Year. It's been 18 years since we first met. How have you been? Right now we're actually waiting for the meteor shower together. You're worrying about Songyu's call while I'm writing this message for you. When the meteor shower begins, I'll make a wish for us to break free from this scripted fate, to live as we choose and love whom our hearts desire." Though Songyu claims you're the novel's male lead destined for her, I can't bring myself to walk away first. My heart won't obey. After tonight, I think I'll find the courage to love you properly. Just a few minutes now. A meteor shower this rare must honor sincere wishes. Right, like you promised, we'll be together forever. I love you, always have. If you're willing, take that brave step toward me. Reply T to renew. Nothing cuts deeper than a message from your long-dead white moonlight. Seconds later, a single T came through, then came an endless stream of TS. 12. No matter how much time passed, Lin Xiangyu would revisit this message obsessively, unable to forget. Truth be told, he never did forget me. Day after day, year after year, he'd treat me like some personal memo pad, flooding me with messages, his lengthy voice notes choked with sobs. I just never replied. Years later abroad, I met a new love, gentle yet resolute, so reminiscent of 18-year-old Lin Xiangyu, yet surpassing him in every way. We married on the church lawn, surrounded by spontaneous crowds of tourists offering heartfelt blessings. Through the crowd, I spotted Lin Xiangyu standing far away, still wearing the scarf I'd knitted him, now frayed and pilled, yet never discarded. Our eyes met, his lips parted wordlessly, gaze shattering like glass. A friend told me they went their separate ways after college. Sangyu and him, fate brought them back together later. But their toxic relationship continued. Lin Xiangyu publicly humiliated her multiple times. In the end, Sangyu couldn't take it anymore. She ran off with a wealthy older man, leaving a note calling Lin Xiangyu a pathetic, unlovable hypocrite. Lin Xiangyu never dated or married again after that. I regret every day that you never got to watch the meteor shower with me. The price is dying alone. Story 2. Back at 18, I was forced to drop out and ended up tightening screws in the factory. In the workshop, the factory owner's son puffed on a cigarette and asked with a roguish grin, "I'm starting a business, who's willing to work with me?" In the dead silence, I raised my hand. My coworkers said I was out of my mind, my cousin laughed at my delusions of grandeur, and my parents scolded me for not earning a steady income. LMAO, what do you guys know? 20 years later, he could be on the Forbes rich list. 1. Back to being 18, I just finished the school withdrawal procedures. In the cramped living room, my father's yelling was deafening. "Why did you steal from others? You've completely shamed our entire family." My mother roared in agreement. "All students in the same class, yet look how much better your cousin performs. If it weren't for her speaking up for you this time, you'd be in jail right now." Scenes from my past life gradually surfaced. I was falsely accused of theft by classmates, without verifying the facts. The teacher pinned the crime on me and sent me to the principal's office. Coincidentally, The school was cracking down on theft, and the principal decided to make an example of me, immediately threatening to send me to the police station. My cousin Ching Sharu tearfully pleaded for leniency on my behalf. In the end, the principal relented, allowing me to withdraw from school voluntarily and dropping the matter. At that time, I regarded Ching Sharu as my savior. It wasn't until years later, when I met a high school classmate while street vending, that I learned the truth. The entire theft accusation had been orchestrated by her from the very beginning. Seeing me distracted, my father raised his hand as if to hit me. I didn't dodge and took the slap squarely. Every part of my body ached. They had beaten me many times before this. Pack your things and get out tomorrow. Whether you live or die is your own business. I nodded and silently returned to my room. The so-called room was just a small partition space next to the kitchen. The lighting was dim, offering no privacy. Just a wall away was my younger brother Lu Shuakong's room. Inside was a large bed and a computer, an extremely rare household item in this era. It was a birthday gift from his parents. Only at this moment did I finally feel the reality of being reborn. I had thought before that if I could return to the past, I would definitely prove my innocence and fight to continue my education. But now the die is cast, and I am powerless to fight against the wicked. But it's alright. Besides studying, I have other paths to take. Early the next morning, I left home. My luggage consisted of just a travel bag and $20 I had saved for a long time. I boarded the bus and headed straight for the city. In my past life, I was weak and incompetent, after being forced to drop out of school. My parents scolded and beat me every day until they grew utterly tired of me and found me a job through connections. Ching Sharu's mother, my second aunt, worked as an accountant at a machine tool factory in the city and took me there to work as a factory girl, screwing bolts every day with room and board provided. This monotonous, repetitive, and extremely low-paying job consumed 4 years of my youth. Nowadays, without her introduction, I take the initiative to enter the factory. Following the foreman, I put on gloves, picked up tools, and walked into the familiar yet unfamiliar workshop, because in this lifetime, my purpose is, fuck, who the hell stepped on me? An unhappy growl startled me, and I quickly lifted my foot. The polished leather shoe already bore a footprint from my step. Following the foot upward, I froze in sudden realization. The young man had streaked yellow hair, a dragon tattoo on his arm, furrowed brows, and a fierce expression. But I'm not afraid. I've seen him dressed in suits in financial magazines, with handsome features and a gentle smile, completely different from now. Boss, she's new here. The manager turned to me. Apologize now. I stared at him intently. I'm sorry. He was staring at me too. After a few seconds of eye contact, he suddenly asked, aren't you afraid of me? I shook my head. Interesting. Chuda licked his teeth. Little factory girl. Staying out of my way won't do you any harm. With that, he turned and walked away. I'm not a factory girl, I called at his retreating, arrogant figure. My name is Lu Ku, too. Tightening screws really isn't a good job. Just 2 days in, and I already have 3 blisters on my hands. What's worse, my second aunt spotted me. She feigned enthusiasm. So this is where you've been hiding. Your parents didn't tell me. You should have said something earlier. I could have found you a better job. I sneered inwardly. Isn't this the great job you found for me in my past life? But I didn't show it. Auntie, you go ahead with your work. We'll talk another day. Unexpectedly, the next day I saw Ching Sharu. Xiao Ku, where have you been these past few days? I was so worried. She held my hand, her surface-level acting skills even more polished than her mother's. Can't blame me for not seeing her true nature back then. Just tightening screws here, I replied nonchalantly. I don't know much about that. I came to share good news. I ranked in the top 30 school-wide in the 3rd mock exam. My homeroom teacher said if I perform normally in the college entrance exam, I'll definitely get into a good university. To come all the way just to say these things to my face, what a joy indeed. Is that so? I smiled. Then have you decided on a major? If you don't choose the right major, even if you get into a good university, you won't find a good job. Ching Sharu got anxious. That's impossible. How is it impossible? I gave an example. Look at Uncle Wang in our neighborhood. He went to university in the capital back then, and now he's just running a small shop in his hometown. Maybe you'll end up. That's still better than tightening screws. TCH, finally couldn't keep up the act anymore. Her expression darkened noticeably. After a pause, she threw out a "I'm leaving first" and hurried away. Fuck, a familiar low growl sounded. I looked up to see Ching Sharu bump into someone. She stepped back repeatedly. Sorry. Chuda had a fierce, menacing expression. Ching Sharu was so frightened she scurried away. He crossed his arms and tilted his head to look at me. You understand university majors? Yeah, he seemed intrigued. Then tell me, which major has good job prospects? Computer science. The late 1990s was when the modern internet boom was just taking shape, and Chuda entered the internet field shortly after. His eyes lit up, but he quickly regained his nonchalance and scoffed lightly. The factory girl has quite some opinions. I stared at him steadily. My name is Luke. He smiled. The fierce expression instantly softened considerably. Got it, little factory girl. He stared at me, his eyes full of amusement, clearly teasing me, suddenly raised his hand and flicked my forehead. My name is Chida. 3. After that, during my free time, I would look for Chida's figure around the factory. I vaguely remember that shortly after I joined the factory, Chida left to start his own business. He tried recruiting people from the factory, but because he looked intimidating and usually appeared unambitious, no one was willing to work with him. From what I know, the few people he recruited later all rose to prominence along with him. In this second life, I don't seek great wealth, only to stand at the forefront of the times, so I won't have to worry about making ends meet in middle age. After careful observation, I realized Chuda wasn't as unreliable as he appeared. Most of the time, he sat in front of his computer reading books and writing code. People at the factory didn't understand. They all thought he was playing games. Someone gossiped to me. Don't be fooled by Chuda's impressive position managing people at the factory. Eventually his family's business will be taken over by his brother. Yes, Chuda has an older brother studying abroad. In my past life, including me, everyone thought he'd have a hard time after his brother returned. Having returned to the past, I know things won't turn out that way, so I retorted to that person, no, he'll become even more successful in the future. After finishing work in the evening, I deliberately lingered for a while and took a detour to the corridor outside Chida's office. The lights were on inside, and Chida was still typing away. I watched for a moment, then turned to leave. Suddenly, I heard footsteps behind me. Hey, I was called to stop. In the dimly lit corridor, Chuda leaned lazily against the wall, tilting his head to look at me. You don't need to pass by here to get back to the dorm, do you? Having my thoughts exposed, I felt a bit flustered. I hurriedly lowered my head, unsure how to explain. Chuda walked step by step toward me, stopping very close. I caught the pleasant scent coming from him, subconsciously raised my head. His eyes smiled, his handsome face relaxed, devoid of its usual ferocity. In the dimly lit atmosphere, he suddenly bent down and paused by my ear. This isn't the first time I've caught you, little sister. His lowered voice was hoarse, carrying a slight vibration from his chest. You're not secretly in love with your brother, are you? 4. I stepped back repeatedly, and no, of course not. He raised an eyebrow, his eyes full of teasing. I awkwardly averted my gaze. I was just curious about what you were doing. Oh, he straightened up. Did you figure it out then? I shook my head. He smiled again. For some reason, he seemed to be smiling a lot tonight, tilted his chin slightly, signaling me to enter. Then I'll be merciful and invite you to take a look. I obediently walked in. The computer screen was on, with several programming books piled beside it. I deliberately asked, what kind of book is this? Truthfully, I was quite curious. With Chuda's intelligence, he could have easily passed the college entrance exams to attend university. There was no need for him to stay at the factory teaching himself, being misunderstood and looked down upon by those around him. Leaning against the desk, he casually picked up a book. If you had studied computer science in college, these are the things you would have learned. I stared fixedly at him. He suddenly scoffed lightly. You've been studying all this time, haven't you? I was taken aback. Yeah, why did you stop? I licked my lips. I didn't intend to hide it either. After a brief pause, I told him about being falsely accused of theft and forced to drop out of school. He didn't react with indignant fervor, pressuring me to fight against the wrongdoers, reclaim my innocence, or seek revenge. He just listened quietly without saying a word. He lit a cigarette and took a deep drag. He let out a low laugh, almost self-mocking. When no one believes you, anything you say is wrong. The warm yellow light in the room flickered slightly as Chuda leaned against the window, his features obscured in the shadows, his expression unreadable. I really wanted to say something. For example, I believe in you. When are you starting your business? Can you take me with you? Before I could speak, he had already crushed the cigarette. Once again, he regained his arrogant demeanor. Little factory girl, he called out to me, looking up. I'll give you half a day off tomorrow. Come with me to a place. Seeing I was about to introduce myself again, he immediately interrupted. For the first time, he called my name, Luke. Though his face was full of impatience and awkwardness, I found it somewhat endearing. Even without knowing where we were going, I still responded with a smile, okay, 5. It was almost lights out when I returned to the dormitory. Phone Yu from the lower bunk suddenly asked, "Where have you been?" "Just wandering around." She was a few years older than me, considered a veteran worker at the factory, and was a rather proud girl who rarely initiated conversations with me. She paused for a few seconds. "Why do I always see you running towards the office?" I was taken aback. I didn't admit it. "You must be mistaken." "Better not be." Phone Yu dropped this sentence, then drew the bed curtain. After lights out, I kept thinking about her words. In my previous life, I didn't have much interaction with her, so I couldn't figure out what she meant until I fell asleep. The next day, I only worked half a day. Chuda must have tipped off the foreman the moment I asked for leave. He let me go without hesitation. I hadn't brought many clothes when leaving home. So after taking off my work uniform, I just threw on a random cotton dress. As I walked out of the factory area, I spotted Chuda waiting for me at the gate from afar. He was dressed quite stylishly, a green pilot jacket with dark trousers and blonde highlights in his hair, giving off some Hong Kong celebrity vibes. Seeing me, he froze for a moment, looked me up and down, then smirked roguishly. "Oh, playing the schoolgirl today, huh?" I awkwardly fidgeted with the hem of my skirt. He stubbed out his cigarette. "Let's go." I boarded the bus with him. There weren't many people on the bus. He sat one row behind me. I turned my head to look out the window, remaining silent the whole time. About 20 minutes later, Chuda suddenly draped his arm over the backrest of the seat next to me. "Little sister." I turned around. He narrowed his eyes, as if returning to how he looked in the hallway last night. "Aren't you going to ask where your big brother is taking you?" I said with all seriousness. "Where to?" He moved closer, and I caught a faint whiff of tobacco from him, his low, husky voice now right beside me. "Hotel." My mind exploded with a boom. My first thought was that it couldn't be true, but then again, this guy was so unreliable and shady. Could he really? "We're here." His eyes were full of mischief, barely containing his laughter. I abruptly stood up and looked out the window. It was early summer, with a cool breeze rustling through the lush green leaves by the roadside, scattering shimmering fragments of light. Outside wasn't a hotel, but the gate of the city's most prestigious university. 6. I hadn't expected Chuda to bring me to a university. Getting out of the car, he stuffed his hands in his pockets and walked ahead without a care. The security guard at the entrance probably didn't think he looked like a student, stopping only him among the passing crowd. He pulled something out of his pocket. The guard took one look and let him through. He turned back and signaled for me to follow. The security guard didn't stop me. "What did you just show him?" I asked. He casually tossed it to me. "Student ID." I looked at the name and photo on the inner page, shocked. "You're a student at this school, little sister. Don't be so naive." He raised an eyebrow. "This cost me $10 to get from the overpass peddler." "Fine then." Chuda seemed very familiar with this university, leading me through winding corridors into a teaching building. As we were about to enter a classroom, I stopped him. "You're going in." He nodded, then smiled when he saw me rooted to the spot. "Aren't you curious what a university lecture looks like?" Of course I'm curious, whether in my past life or now. I've never attended university, so I took a deep breath and went in with Chuda. The universities today certainly don't have the modern technology of 20 years later. The wooden desks, lectern, and wall paintings exude a rustic sense of bygone eras, yet to me, it was already spacious and bright enough to hold the fervent hopes and dreams of youth. No one noticed Chuda and me. Everyone was busy with their own tasks. This open and inclusive atmosphere was something I'd never experienced in my life before. I remained immersed in a dreamlike surrealism until the bespectacled professor entered the classroom. Only then did I notice that Chuda had taken out a book. It was identical to the textbook in front of everyone, one of the books he usually read, so what he's been studying every day is actually university-level coursework, for the entire class, apart from the professor's introduction. I didn't understand a single word. Chuda listened with rare seriousness, his expression uncharacteristically solemn. Sunlight streamed through the glass, casting light beside his hand, and in that moment, I suddenly felt as if he was glowing. After class, I followed Chuda as we left. I couldn't help but ask, "So, you're here to audit the class?" Chuda turned to look at me. "Little sister, don't put it so bluntly." He raised his eyebrows. "I spent quite a bit of money treating them to get familiar with their classmates. Actually, I don't really like him calling me little sister. It's as if once I'm given this title, there's no difference between me and those women around him who get called big sister or little sister." I lowered my head and walked silently in front of him. "What's wrong?" He quickly caught up, his tone still casual. You don't seem too enthusiastic, girl. My name is Luke. I looked up and stared at him steadily. He froze for a moment. Then he smiled. Chida had smiled many times in front of me, but this was the first genuine smile without any mockery or teasing. My bad. He raised an eyebrow. So, would you honor me with a meal together? After a pause, she smiled and said, Luke, 7, I had dinner with Chida in the city, caught the last bus back to the factory. I knew I was clueless about computers, but still shamelessly borrowed books from Chida. He will later enter the internet industry. If I want to follow him in starting a business, I must increase my own bargaining chips. Chuda tossed me a few books with great interest. Although they're introductory readings, they still have some difficulty. Don't cry if you can't understand them, I pouted. Whether calling me little factory girl or little sister, this person seems to always treat me like a child, but no matter what, we started getting familiar with each other. After that, whenever I wasn't working, I would find a quiet corner to read, and make time to borrow Chuda's computer. Although they were just basic introductions, every little progress made me incredibly happy. But gradually, rumors about me and Chuda started spreading in the factory. I first heard it in the dormitory. That day I took sick leave for menstrual cramps and was lying in bed. Several roommates came back, thinking no one was in the dorm, and sat on the lower bunk chatting. The conversation covered all aspects of the factory, and finally turned to me. Has Luke been getting pretty close to Boss Chu lately? Someone asked. Anyone with eyes can see that. Feng Yu's voice chimed in. I asked her about it before, and she still refused to admit it. What does she see in Chuda? Another person asked. The factory director doesn't even like him. Once his brother returns, he'll be nothing. With his slacker attitude, what could he possibly achieve in the future? Feng Yu sneered. Who knows? Maybe she's unaware of the inside story and just wants to climb the social ladder to become a phoenix. I stared at the ceiling, calmly listening to their judgments about me and Chida. Since I wasn't familiar with Feng Yu and hadn't thought much about it before, I assumed she simply disliked me. Now I suddenly remembered Feng Yu's story from my past life. After Chida's brother Chu Fa returned to the country, Feng Yu quickly hooked up with him and moved out of the dorm. At that time, everyone thought she was going to marry Chu Fa, but to my surprise, even after I left the factory, their relationship remained ambiguous. Later, I heard that Chu Fa married the daughter of a big boss while still maintaining an unclear relationship with Feng Yu. In the end, the boss's daughter found out, forgave the scumbag, but made Feng Yu suffer terribly. Thinking of this, I suddenly understood why Feng Yu harbored such hostility toward me. She probably thought I was the same type of person as her, so she saw me as a rival. Now that she had the chance, she naturally went all out to disparage and slander, but I didn't go down to explain with indignant fervor. There's one thing Chuda said that was right. When no one believes you, anything you say is wrong. I'll be leaving here soon, and my interactions with them will end here. Thinking this way, I turned over. The people on the lower bunk suddenly fell silent. I sneered inwardly and closed my eyes again. 8. At this point, I'm actually grateful for my parents' neglect. This indifference, to some extent, has given me the greatest freedom and control over my life. I regained hope for the future. Studying books every day and working hard to save money, I am in no hurry to take revenge on those who have harmed me. My current strength is too weak. I can only endure hardships in silence, but on the path to becoming stronger, there are always those who want to become stumbling blocks. After working overtime today, I used the computer in Chida's office and returned quite late. Just after returning, I heard Feng Yu's loud shouting. Before I could figure out what was happening, she rushed forward, pointing at my nose. Was it you who stole my watch? Before I could react, she started cursing. It must be you, you thieving bitch. I heard from Accountant Lu that you were expelled from school for stealing. Now you've changed locations, and your hands are itching again. I froze for a moment. I never expected my second aunt to have already publicly revealed my past misdeeds. It wasn't me, I said calmly. My expressionless face only made her angrier. She grabbed me by the collar and dragged me outside. Still won't admit it. I'm taking you to see the factory director right now. Let everyone see what kind of person you really are. The loud noise made everyone in the dormitory stick their heads out to look. Without mobile phones yet, such farces were everyone's favorite entertainment. Soon, crowds of men and women gathered outside the dormitory to watch the spectacle. I forcefully shook her off. Feng Yu acted as if deeply humiliated, pointing at my nose while hurling increasingly vulgar insults. The commotion finally drew the attention of the factory management. I saw Chida arrive wearing just a tank top and flip-flops. What's all this racket? He shouted impatiently. When he spotted me in the middle of the crowd, he froze momentarily. What's the matter? He walked over with a grave expression. She has sticky fingers. Stole my. Did I ask you? Chuda suddenly roared. Fengyu was frightened into silence. He turned to me. She lost her watch and accused me of stealing it. I stared at him intently. I just got back to the dorm. I didn't take it. He looked at me and remained silent for a few seconds. In the dim light, I only saw his deep, lake-like eyes. From beginning to end, I wasn't panicked, but in these few seconds of silence, I lost my composure. Would he distrust me like others did? Would he be disappointed in me? Would he? She didn't steal. Chuda turned to Fengyu. At that moment, I heard the heavy sound of a stone hitting the ground. Who knows if she stole it or not? Fengyu screamed. She leaves early and comes back late every day, running off right after work but never returning to the dormitory on time. Who's to say she didn't sneak back to steal things and then go out to sell them? My heart sank. Fengyu played her cards well. The times I left early and returned late were all spent with Chuda. If Chuda steps forward to testify, it would confirm the rumors about us in the factory. If I don't explain, everyone will inevitably suspect me based on her speculation. So, how much is your watch? Chuda suddenly asked. Fengyu was startled. 500. A 500 yuan watch was indeed an extremely valuable item in this era. When did you lose it? He asked again. Tonight. I still had it this afternoon. He licked his back teeth. I'll take people to turn your dorm upside down right now. If we find your watch and prove she didn't steal it, you'll apologize to her and compensate her 1,000. Everyone present gasped in shock. $1,000 is no small amount for a working-class person. Fengyu stiffened her neck. Fine, then asked again, what if she stole it? Chuda was already leading people toward the dormitory building. Hearing this, he glanced sideways at her and said coldly, there's no such possibility. 9. In the cramped dorm room, roommates took out their respective luggage. The doorway was crowded with curious onlookers. All the cabinets were opened, and under Chuda's gloomy expression, no one dared to raise any objections. The people he brought began checking one by one, leaving no corner unchecked. I stood quietly aside, not uttering a single word from start to finish. Experience told me the chances of finding it were slim, and it would most likely end up unresolved, even if Chuda believed me. Others would silently assume I was the thief in their hearts. I endured this kind of silent treatment for half a year at school, the clattering of indoor rummaging, the hushed whispers of outdoor conversations. A barrier seems to form between me and the world, blurring both sight and gossip, as if my body were sinking into a quagmire. Darkness, suffocation, helplessness. Found it. A loud cry pierces through the layers of darkness like a beam of light. Everything before my eyes began to clear. I slowly walked over. They excitedly discussed how they found it in the gap behind the cabinet and how they retrieved it. Fengyu's face turned deathly pale. Chuda's eyes drooped, full of laziness and impatience. All right, we found the thing. You haven't forgotten what you just promised, right? I am sorry. Fengyu turned to me, her eyes red and on the verge of tears. I don't have that much money right now. Could you give me a few months' grace? By then, no need, I replied indifferently. As if using the last ounce of strength, under the astonished gazes of the crowd, I turned and walked through the throng. Chuda caught up with me in the alley beside the factory building. Stop right there. He suddenly grabbed my arm. I'm fucking helping you. Don't you know how to stand your ground? If I don't teach you a lesson, next time why are you crying? I lowered my head, trying to hold back my tears, but it was completely uncontrollable, falling drop by drop. I wiped my face roughly. I'm sorry. I looked at him. Thank you. He was only wearing a white tank top, revealing his well-defined arms, attractive collarbones, and faintly visible chest muscles. The air seemed to grow even hotter. I hastily averted my gaze. He suddenly leaned in, his lowered voice husky and seductive. Then how will you thank your big brother? I suddenly looked up. The lone streetlight stood far from the factory building, casting dim light in the alley. I couldn't clearly see Da's expression, only that his eyes shone startlingly bright. His breathing seemed to grow heavier. Has anyone ever told you not to look at a man with that kind of gaze? His voice was hoarse, and my cheeks instantly burned crimson. Just as the atmosphere reached its peak of tension, Chuda took half a step back and tapped my head. I'll put this on your tab for now. We'll settle it later. After saying that, he swaggered off with an arrogant stride. I stood there for a long time before the flush on my face finally faded. When I returned to the dorm, the atmosphere was eerily quiet. Fengyu burst into tears the moment she saw me. Luku, I'm sorry, it's all my fault. Please beg Boss Chu for mercy. Ask him not to fire me. I have younger siblings to support. This job is really important to me. I was stunned. Chuda wants to fire you, she nodded tearfully. As I looked at the girl weeping like a rain-soaked pear blossom before me, I suddenly recalled her tragic fate in her past life. If she leaves this place, perhaps she can find a different life. I climbed onto the bed with an expressionless face. That was his decision, I can't influence it. The endless night. The girl's sobs and the moonlight outside the window, like a dream from which one cannot awaken, until sunrise. 10. After Fengyu left, no one dared to bully me anymore. Meanwhile, the rumors about me and Chuda grew even wilder. Phrases like rage for a beauty or when a fair maiden smile became increasingly exaggerated as the rumors spread. The matter blew up so much that it naturally reached my second aunt's ears. But she's a shrewd one, she didn't confront me directly. Just kindly relate it to my mother. I don't know the exact words she used, but from what my mother told me, I could piece together most of it. It was a weekend, and the factory was closed. I had originally planned to study by reading books and discuss some issues with Chitta, but everything was interrupted by my mother's sudden arrival. She stood at the door of my dormitory, wearing a silk dress and a pearl necklace, with a look of disdain on her face. Actually, my family's financial situation isn't poor, but ever since I was little, every time they spent money on me, they'd look gloomy. This displeasure became internalized as guilt in me, always feeling like I owed them, gradually becoming submissive, yet I never considered that raising children was their responsibility in the first place. Luke, she frowned and called me, come out with me for a moment. I walked out expressionlessly. She looked me up and down. Did you get the money? We hadn't seen each other for nearly 2 months, with no contact in between, and this was the first thing she said upon meeting. I smiled. What's so funny? She said displeased. Whether I send it or not, what's it to you? I said calmly. She flared up instantly. I'm your mother. Now you remember. Realizing she'd lost her composure, she cleared her throat twice and said coldly, don't think I don't know your situation. Your second aunt told me everything. What? You think you've climbed up in the world and can defy your parents now. The whole factory knows what kind of man he is, yet you're still clinging to him like some treasure. Let me tell you, if you dare do anything to bring shame on our family, I'll break your legs. Her face was radiant with confidence, holding all the cards. Probably thought I'd be as weak and submissive as before, but I just watched her quietly, as if detached from it all. I'm talking to you, hear me. Keep your distance from him, don't let me hear any more rumors. Impossible. My face remained expressionless. What did you say? Impossible. The dormitory hallway was very quiet, and even though our argument wasn't loud, it drew scattered onlookers peeking out. She was concerned about saving face. Her face flushed red, and didn't continue the argument. She just left with a wait till your father deals with you, glared at me, and walked away. I spent the entire day thinking about this incident. Will they still come? How will they treat me then? Just drag them away directly. Such things have happened in our factory before. A child ran away, and parents came from their hometown to drag them back. No one will interfere throughout the entire process. Given my current situation, the only way out I can think of is to leave this place with Chitta and start a new life. But when will he leave? In the evening, as usual. I took a book and went to find Chitta. He was coding, and I didn't disturb him, just sat quietly watching. Only when he stopped to rest did I ask, what are you working on? A freelance job. He stretched, just earning some extra cash. I was surprised he'd started taking side projects so early. You still have to study. Can you handle it all? I asked. He leaned back in his chair, raising an eyebrow, doubting me. No. The atmosphere fell silent for a few seconds. My fingers unconsciously picked at the seam of my pants. I spoke softly. If one day, He looked at me. If one day you have to leave, you must tell me. He froze for a moment. Where would you go? Anywhere. There was a brief daze in his eyes before he smiled. What? Afraid I'll run away? You could also understand it this way. I nodded. He raised his hand and flicked my forehead. Don't worry, big brother won't run away. He narrowed his eyes, like a sly old fox full of mischief. Little Luke, 11, with these words, a weight lifted from my heart. If my parents insist on dragging me back, I'll make a scene. They care too much about face and would never confront me in front of a crowd, but strangely enough, they didn't show up for quite some time afterward. However, Qing Sharu came. I had just gotten off work from the workshop, covered in grease, when she stood downstairs at our dormitory, wearing a trendy floral dress, looking fresh and neat. Seeing me, she approached with a forced smile. Xiao Ku, we've finished our college entrance exams. Only when she mentioned it did I suddenly remember. It's already June. I feel like I performed quite well, barring any surprises. I should be able to get into a top university. I looked at her expressionlessly. She didn't even notice my reaction and kept chattering away. How are you doing now? Factory work must be exhausting, right? Look at all this grease on you. As she spoke, she even took 2 steps back. I sneered inwardly. If it weren't for you, this spotless soon-to-be college student, how could I have ended up like this? Pretty good, I smiled. I'm teaching myself computer programming. She paused. Then, what's the use? You're tightening screws at the factory. You don't need that stuff, right? Who knows? Definitely useless. Watching her flustered expression, I couldn't help but laugh inwardly. Just how afraid was she of me surpassing her, that she went to such lengths to stop me from studying? I didn't argue with her, just smiled indifferently. Since you've finished your exams, I wish you a happy summer vacation. Trust me, you're about to have a summer vacation you'll never forget, I promise. 12. After the college entrance exams ended, another batch of new workers arrived at the factory. Among them was Du Shuichin. My old classmate. She was one of those at school who participated in the Qingsharu plan and falsely accused me of stealing, and it was also her, many years later, who couldn't bear the guilt and chose to tell me the truth. She didn't do well in the college entrance exams and was sent by her parents to work in the factory. We weren't in the same workshop, and in my past life I'd only exchanged a few glances with her. Afraid she'd frame me like she did at school, I kept my distance every time, thus missing the earliest chance to learn the truth. But this time, shortly after her arrival, I appeared before her openly and confidently. Her first reaction was surprise, followed by a mix of fluster. Lu Ku. I squinted with a smile. What a coincidence. She hurriedly lowered her head. Shouldn't you be preparing for college now? I didn't do well on the exam. Is that so? I smiled indifferently. The factory isn't an easy place, after leaving school. This is the only place I can earn some hard-earned money. Others can still take the college entrance exams, but I don't even get a single chance. Her face turned a shade paler. I continued, I believe in karma, and heaven must surely distinguish between love and hate. If I've done anything wrong, my conscience would be uneasy, haunted by nightmares every night. Luck. She suddenly interrupted me. After a long pause, not a single word came out. What's wrong? It's nothing. Still not talking. But it's okay, I can take some measures. In the days that followed, I would appear before Du Shuichin almost every day, doing nothing else, just to gain her trust. The fact that she could tell me the truth in her past life indicates her psychological defenses weren't strong. Qingsharu must have offered some benefit to persuade her to join those villains. The day before college entrance exam results were released, I walked into Du Shuichin's dormitory holding an envelope. She slept in the corner, and no one noticed us while we talked. This time, I got straight to the point. Du Shuichin, I know all those things you did to me at school were done out of necessity. She froze, visibly flustered. I also know the difficulties you're facing now. I stuffed the envelope into her arms. This is my salary from the past 2 months. If you want to retake the college entrance exams, you can use it for part of the tuition. I don't blame you for what happened before. I just want to hear you tell me the truth. Her eyes instantly reddened. I'm sorry. I was being extorted by thugs at the time and gave them all my living expenses. Qingsharu suggested I accuse you of stealing, saying since everyone already called you a thief, one more accusation wouldn't matter. I'm sorry. I was foolish and terrified of being beaten by my parents. That's why I did it. My face remained calm, just as expected. The same answer as in my previous life, as if seeking my forgiveness. Du Shuichin continued, actually, I know many people lost their belongings themselves, yet they all claimed you stole them. All these were taught by Qingsharu. We truly didn't intend to do this at first. Do you know how I felt at that time? I asked. Her tear-streaked face suddenly froze. Du Shuichin, I don't want to be labeled as a thief for the rest of my life. She stared at me blankly. They all got into college. Only we are the same kind of people. My voice was sincere yet full of temptation. I need you to help me this once. She paused for a long while. With reddened eyes, she nodded. 13. After the college entrance exam results were released, our former class held a reunion dinner in the city. The reason I knew about it was because in my past life, Qingsharu deliberately came to show off. Back then, I secretly followed them to the restaurant and watched through the window as they chatted animatedly and toasted each other, everyone brimming with excitement and high spirits. I can't quite recall the complex emotions I felt at the time, only the sharp pain and an almost envious admiration. Now, I stand once again before the entrance of this restaurant. Besides me, there was also Du Shuichin. Panic flickered in her eyes. Lu Ku, what if I mess up? It's okay, I smiled. Just say what you know. Okay, when we entered that private room, they were still chatting and laughing. A few seconds later, dozens of pairs of eyes turned to look in unison. The air suddenly fell silent. Qing Sharu was the first to break the silence. Xiao Ku, what brings you here? Many people present had been led by her to falsely accuse me of being a thief, yet she could still pretend to be warm towards me. Her acting deserves an Oscar statuette. I heard everyone did well on the exams. Congratulations. Then I shifted the topic. Of course, before we all go our separate ways, there's something I need to make clear. I looked at Du Shuichin. She startled. The truth is, my money wasn't stolen by Lu Ku. Everyone was stunned. I gave it all to the thugs, and I was afraid of being beaten by my parents, so I said that. These words were all taught to me by Qing Sharu. The crowd erupted in an uproar below. Everyone turned their gaze toward Qing Sharu in unison. Qing Sharu suddenly stood up, the chair screeching loudly. Du Shuichin, how dare you slander me? When did I ever teach you to call someone a thief? You did teach me. Not only did you make me say it, you also told Sun Fu and Li Jinping to say the same thing. The named individuals grew frantic, following suit and standing up. We weren't taught that. It was Lu Ku who stole it in the first place. Du Shuichin protested. Li Jinping, are you even making sense? Your necklace wasn't even lost at school. Who says so? You didn't do well on your exams, couldn't get into college, and now you're turning on us with Lu Ku. Who knows if you're just jealous? I watched the farce unfolding before me. They would never admit it, even with Du Shuichin's testimony. No one wanted to acknowledge a truth that would tarnish their reputation. I had anticipated this from the very beginning. I took out a stack of letters from my bag and slammed them on the table. The reason I chose to address this matter after the college entrance exams is to avoid affecting your futures. I've painstakingly written multiple complaint letters word by word, meticulously documenting the process of how you all slandered me. Everyone has their dream universities. I assume you wouldn't want these letters sent to the admissions offices, would you? Compared to the later widespread convenience of online reporting, written complaint letters are seen as an extremely serious matter in people's eyes. Li Jinping shrieked. Lu Ku, you're making baseless accusations. The admissions office would never believe such nonsense. I smiled. You all have bright futures ahead, but I've reached the end of my rope. As the saying goes, the barefooted fear not the shod. If I file these complaints, it will inevitably affect your university admissions. I can complain until no university dares accept you, and if they do, I'll keep complaining until you're expelled. Go ahead, test whether I dare or not. After all, they were just teenagers of 17 or 18, their faces instantly turned deathly pale. I'll give you one last chance to tell the truth, and I'll let you go. Those with a guilty conscience find their psychological defenses easily broken. Sun Fu was the first to crack. It was Qing Sharu who told us to say this. Lu Ku, please don't report me. The crowd erupted in uproar again. Li Jinping slumped into his seat, his face full of dejection, no longer resisting. Yes, it was her. Qing Sharu screamed. What are you all talking about? Why are you pinning the blame on me? Du Shuichin, stop pretending. Li Jinping also got angry. Qing Sharu, you're just using us as pawns. Could you stop speaking in that innocent tone? It's really disgusting. Dog bites dog. What a good show. But my goal has already been achieved. I walked up to Qing Sharu and pulled out the thickest envelope from the stack. My dear cousin, this is for you, filled with all my love for you. Qing Sharu flushed red and reached out to snatch it, but I dodged. Lu Ku, just you wait. My parents will never let you get away with this. I tilted my head and smiled. All right. Stepping out of the restaurant, Du Shuichin was hopping and skipping behind me. Lu Ku, when did you write the whistleblower letter? This move really worked. Let me see what you wrote. I handed those letters to her. She took them, opened one with a grin, then froze, then opened several more in succession. Why are they all blank sheets? She exclaimed in astonishment. They are indeed blank. Then, she suddenly paused. You were just trying to scare them. I chuckled. Which school's admissions office has so much free time to read so-called tip-off letters? Only those with a guilty conscience would believe in such things. So you're just going to ignore them? Yeah, it's not worth wasting energy on them. I just want to wash off the dirt that's been thrown at me. After returning in the evening, I went to the office to return the book to Chitta. He stared at me. In a good mood today. Yeah, I didn't deny it. Cleared my name. He raised an eyebrow, waiting for me to continue. I didn't intend to hide it from him, so I briefly explained the whole process. Unexpectedly, he chuckled softly. What are you laughing at? I asked, puzzled. He raised an eyebrow at me and let out a playful whistle. As expected of my little Luke, I froze in shock, my cheeks burning red. yet he acted as if nothing had happened, casually turning away to code, all night long. Chuda's words echoed in my dreams, my dear little Luke, 12, but what's meant to come will come. On the second day of work, second aunt rushed into the workshop, came up to me, and grabbed my arm. Perhaps afraid of making a scene, she suppressed her anger. Come with me. I frowned and shook off her hand. I'm still busy, say what you need to hear. She finally couldn't hold back anymore. Luke, how can someone so young be so cruel? What did Cheru do to deserve those letters you wrote? I played dumb. What letters? Everyone here knows about it. Don't play dumb with me. Her sudden shout drew everyone's attention, the classmates present. They certainly know, I sneered. They know Qing Cheru conspired with others to frame me as a thief, forcing me to drop out before college entrance exams and end up tightening screws in a factory. Why do you conveniently omit all this? Seeing me expose Qing Cheru's misdeeds publicly, she panicked. I'll have your parents drag you home immediately, you disgrace. With that, she turned and stormed off, her high heels nearly drilling holes in the floor. The parents arrived quickly, after mother left last time. She didn't call father to discipline me together. I thought they had suddenly become kind-hearted, until I saw the cast on father's leg and him limping with crutches. Then I understood, so something had happened. Heaven has eyes indeed. Life in the factory was too monotonous, so the workers slowed their tasks and craned their necks to watch this farce. My father struggled to suppress his anger. Look at the mess you've made, quit now and get the hell home. I remained expressionless, not uttering a word. My mother added timely. Your father's leg is injured, and there's no one at home to take care of him. Seeing that tough tactics didn't work, they're resorting to emotional blackmail now. I still uttered the same 3 words, impossible. The mother grabbed the furious father. Do you want to spend your whole life stuck in this factory? Not exactly. I even smiled. I'll build my own career. What? I smiled without speaking. You were earning steady money here. I thought you were at least somewhat useful. Now you want to run away. If you leave, I'll consider you no daughter of mine. Wasn't it always like this? Father finally exploded. You're leaving today whether you want to or not. If you refuse, we'll tie you up and drag you away. He lunged forward with his cane, raising his hand to strike. I didn't dodge. Instinctively closing my eyes, the expected pain never came. I opened my eyes to see a familiar figure standing before me, gripping my father's wrist with one hand. Chuda was wearing a short-sleeved shirt that revealed his arm tattoos, a cigarette dangling from his mouth, looking even more roguish than usual. His tone carried a threat. We don't tolerate trouble in this factory. The father's expression turned stern as he withdrew his arm. I'm here to take my daughter home. Chuda's gaze swept past me and returned to my father. He clicked his tongue. This complicates matters. My father paused. She just signed her full-time contract the day before yesterday. If you take her now, the penalty fee, will you pay it for her? These words do carry some intimidation, but my father merely paused for a moment before still reaching out to pull me. She hasn't been here long enough to get a permanent position. I'm taking my daughter home. This has nothing to do with you. Chuda stepped forward, positioning himself squarely in front of me. He spat out the cigarette in his mouth and ground it under his toe. Go ahead and try, he said casually. If you can take her even half a step outside this factory, I'll stop being a Chew. The sheer intensity of the situation genuinely frightened them. Amidst the tense silence, second aunt arrived upon hearing the news, seeing Chuda's dark expression. She didn't even bother having my parents discipline me, but instead coaxed and persuaded them until they finally left. Chuda turned around. Wait for me a moment. I need to say a few words to them. When I came back, Chuda lit another cigarette without looking up at me. Aren't you curious about what I said? I asked. What? I said, I'll be leaving here soon. He suddenly looked up. Where to? I named a city in the south. Staring intently at him. With you. He froze for a moment, then suddenly smiled. Sometimes I think you're really the little worm in my belly. I remembered what he just said. When did I sign the regularization contract? Even when questioned by me, he remained unflustered. He knocked on his chest with a fist and smiled. Signed right here, with a seal stamped too. I chuckled too. How long's the contract for? A lifetime. That near confession left my mind completely blank. Chuda left as if nothing had happened. It took me 2 days to pack my luggage, which wasn't much, and I didn't have much money either. Finally, on a sultry afternoon, the scene that made me drop everything and rush into the factory to fight for my future reappeared. Chuda walked into the workshop with his hands in his pockets, a cigarette dangling from his mouth. Leaning against the desk, he halted everyone's work and asked with a roguish tone, I'm starting a business. Who's willing to join me? Just like in the previous life, the workshop fell completely silent. Amid everyone's astonishment, I raised my hand. Through the crowd, Chuda looked at me with a smile and slightly lifted his chin. Then come with me, Luku, 13. Before leaving, Du Shuachin found me. Luku, are you going south with Chuda? I nodded. Have you thought it through? Going with him now? What's the difference between that and eloping? I looked at her seriously. We're going to start a business. That might just be his excuse. He's so unreliable, anyway. Everyone's saying you've lost your mind. I smiled. This is the life I've chosen. He's reliable. What others say doesn't concern me. It was drizzling on the day we parted. I was the only one from the whole factory who went with him, and we agreed to meet at our usual spot, in the misty drizzle. That familiar slender figure stood by the red brick wall, holding an umbrella. Hearing the movement, they lifted the umbrella and looked over. I abruptly stopped in my tracks. His yellow-streaked hair had turned black, paired with a cool-style outfit that made his facial features appear more angular. What are you staring at? He raised an eyebrow. Let's go. By the time I boarded the southbound train, the sky had already darkened. Through the window, the night view of the entire city can be seen. Though far less prosperous than later years, it still shimmered with lights. Chuda sat beside and suddenly asked, "Are you afraid?" Amid the roaring sound, the train entered the tunnel. In the pitch-black window, only my young, naive yet determined face could be clearly seen. I turned to look at him. From the moment we met, I've never seen unease in this man, yet now he gazes up at the ceiling as if somewhat lost. I raised my hand and slowly covered the back of his. His body visibly stiffened for a moment. "I'm not afraid," I said. He looked down at me. His gaze was overwhelmingly tender. 14. Starting a business wasn't as hard as I'd imagined. Chitta didn't come into entrepreneurship empty-handed on a mere whim. Before this, he had already found like-minded partners. The team included computer science graduates, professionals who quit their jobs to focus on IT, and people willing to contribute funds or labor despite lacking technical knowledge. I'm curious how Chitta assembled such a team. Only later did I learn that their connection was built through shared aspirations, relying on the still slow internet and countless phone calls. So it was essentially a meetup of online friends in this era. But not being hard doesn't mean the entrepreneurial journey was smooth sailing. They rented an office and registered an internet technology company. The company's main business is in the telecommunications field, expanding paging systems for wireless networks. Passionate young people gathered together, full of energy every day, envisioning a bright future for the company. But me from the future couldn't help but feel worried. Although I haven't studied Chitta's entrepreneurial history in detail, what eventually made him a household name and landed him on Forbes wasn't telecommunications, but e-commerce. So I'm not entirely sure whether this is a butterfly effect after Rebirth, or just one of his failed experiences. It's comforting that Chuda understands not to put all eggs in one basket. Besides the internet company, he also started offline businesses. He rented a shop in an electronics mall to sell electronic products. I originally studied computer science diligently, hoping to join his internet company, never expecting to end up being assigned to work at the counter selling products. And he left me with the remark, "Your amateurish skills need at least 2 more years of practice." Knowing my abilities were insufficient, I didn't resist and just worked at the store with 2 other employees. This entrepreneurial life seemed to suddenly settle into quiet routine, but I didn't slack off. Whenever I had free time, I would seize the opportunity to study or go to the company to observe. From summer to winter, I've already been here for half a year. When I first arrived, I formally wrote a letter home to let them know I was still alive. I didn't expect them to reply, and indeed, they never wrote back to me. Ironically, I received a letter from Ching Sharu. The entire letter was filled with accusations and insults, not forgetting to inform me that she had been admitted to a prestigious normal university. While defining my venture to the south as delusional, I found it amusing and kept the letter, thinking that one day when I return home in glory, I must read this letter aloud in public. The shop business keeps me busy every day with inventory management, customer communication, and after-sales service. At night, I stay in a rented civilian house just next door. During the company's startup phase, Chitta rarely came by, making this shop feel more like a place he arranged to accommodate us employees. It wasn't until later, when everything was on track, that I could see him more frequently. It was already winter by then. With 10 months of summer each year, winter is probably the most refreshing season in this southern city. The shops were getting busier with business. After another busy day of settling accounts and closing up, I was the last one to leave, walking through the dimly lit streets, still preoccupied with work. I heard the distant sound of a man and woman laughing from a far corner, probably a couple on a date here. Just as I was about to hurry away, the man's figure suddenly seemed familiar. I stopped in my tracks and took another look. It's Chida. They were too far away. I couldn't hear what they were saying. But it was clear there was an intimate atmosphere between them, chatting happily. An indescribable emotion welled up in my heart. I suddenly felt an inexplicable anger. I've put my heart and soul into his small business, yet here he is enjoying romantic dalliances with other women, having the time of his life. But what can I do? He's the boss. I regained my composure. I only emerged from the shadows at the street corner after that woman had left. Seeing me, Chuda wasn't surprised either. Raising an eyebrow, "Yo, off work," I responded indifferently with a and was about to walk past him to go back. He caught up. "What's wrong?" I didn't turn back. "Nothing much." He clicked his tongue. "Something on your mind?" No, he didn't press further, but walked with me for a while. The dimly lit long street was quiet, with only the sound of each other's footsteps and shallow breathing audible. In the end, I still couldn't hold back. That person just now was. Before I could finish asking, Chuda smiled. After half a year of entrepreneurship, he was no longer the frivolous person he used to be, whether in dress or demeanor. The mature and refined gentleman he would become was already taking shape, but at this moment, he reverted to his playful and teasing demeanor. "Are you jealous?" My breath hitched. Hastily denied. "No." He let out a thoughtful "oh, then it must be jealousy." He suddenly stopped in his tracks, and I turned to look. In the moment I looked up, cool fingertips touched before me, giving a gentle pinch. He bent down, his breath close enough to feel. "Don't worry, she's just a client." I instinctively stepped back, yet he leaned in closer. "Right now, Big Brother only has you in his heart." My mind exploded with a boom. Are you confessing to me?" "What else?" I kept stepping back, but he suddenly wrapped his arm around my waist, pulling my entire body close to his. Our breathing grew heavier. "Luke." His lowered voice was hoarse. How about making you the boss lady?" I buried my head in his chest, my nose filled with the familiar scent of him mixed with a faint tobacco aroma. My mind went blank, followed by flashes of all the moments we've shared together. A surge of emotion could no longer be suppressed. "Okay," I responded softly. "Luke." He called me again. "Have you passed your 18th birthday?" I looked up, somewhat puzzled. What?" The kiss fell urgently and fiercely. Swallowing the remaining words, my legs went weak as I clung to him, my palm resting on the tattoo that once frightened me. Now it seemed like a little beast, utterly adorable. His strong arms nearly lifted me as he pressed close, his breath scorching by my ear. "Call me brother." My voice broke. "Be brother." He lifted me up forcefully and kissed me fiercely. "Big Brother will take you home." 15. That spring festival was probably the best New Year I've ever had in my life. Whether it was Chuda's shops or the companies he partnered with, everything was moving in a positive direction. During the spring festival gathering, everyone joyfully envisioned the beauty of the coming year, shared hopes for the future, clinked glasses, and reveled in the lively atmosphere. And amidst the fireworks that year, I held Chuda's hand, our fingers intertwined. I knew the future wouldn't be smooth sailing, but no matter what happens, I would never leave. The turning point of the story always comes so unexpectedly. After the New Year's resumption, Chuda's company encountered frequent problems. Issues in funding, technology, and competition were tormenting everyone's nerves. Finally, after months of losses, some chose to leave. Like a breach in a 100-mile dike, the flood poured out, and the team began to collapse. I watched Chuda standing on the balcony smoking cigarette after cigarette through the night, powerless to help. At that moment, I wished more than anything that I had the ability to help him, but we couldn't abandon the shop. It was our last resort. The declaration of failure came on a day as ordinary as any other. It was raining heavily that day. Chuda smoked 5 whole packs of cigarettes. I've seen his arrogance, his gentle courtesy, but for the first time, I saw this man in a state of despondent despair. But there was nothing I could do. Can only quietly stay by his side. Outside the window, the rain grew heavier. And amidst the clamor of the downpour, he suddenly spoke, asking softly, "Do you regret it?" I turned my head to look at him, almost thinking I had misheard. At that moment, time seemed to suddenly rewind. A year ago at the train station drizzling with rain, he sat beside me and softly asked, "Are you afraid?" The raindrops from back then now drift into the southern wind. I raised my hand again, gently covering the back of his, speaking with firm resolve, word by deliberate word, no regrets. 16. We've been through some tough times. All the funds were used to keep the shop running. To save money, we had to let employees go. and Chida and I worked day and night. He was discouraged, but he didn't give up. I always encouraged him that once we saved enough money, we could start another business. Accidents can happen when you least expect them. I got into a car accident while making a delivery. Chida was trembling all over when he brought me to the hospital. We had no money at all. But somehow Chida managed to pay the hospital bill. I asked, "Who did you borrow it from?" He casually replied, "A friend." Only later did I find out he went to a phone booth to ask his family for money. By then, his eldest brother Chu Fa had returned to take over the factory, and somehow Feng Yu managed to reconcile with Chu Fa again. The person who answered the phone was Feng Yu, taking advantage of her current status as Chu Da's sister-in-law and name. She berated him fiercely to vent her resentment over being fired before relaying the matter to Chu Fa. Chu Da endured it all like that, and only then managed to borrow the money. A proud man like him never mentioned this to me directly, only late at night, thinking I was asleep in the hospital bed, did he speak half to himself, half as a promise to me. "I'll never let you suffer like this again." The night was deep, with only the clear sound of a heartbeat reminding me this wasn't a dream. Fortunately, my injuries weren't severe. After a full-body examination, only minor fractures were found, and I was discharged within days. Chida took excellent care of me, and no longer let me worry about the shop affairs. The spring and summer temperatures in coastal cities are very high, and every time I see his hard-working figure rushing about, I can't help but feel heartache. In the midnight dreams, I lean on his shoulder and murmur, "Everything will get better." Every time at this moment, he would almost devoutly place a kiss on the top of my head and say gently, "Thank you." He rarely says thanks, but I understand the meaning behind these two words. The turning point came in late autumn. We saved some money, expanded the shop, and hired staff. One evening, on the way back with Chida, he suddenly said, "I want to do online commerce." I was taken aback for a moment before understanding what he meant. As expected, he still didn't give up on what he had learned. "Then do it," I said. That night under a sky full of stars, Chida turned his head to look at me, his eyes shining brilliantly. "What if we fail again? Then we'll start over from the beginning." He froze for a moment, then burst into laughter. At that moment, it was as if he had returned to the wild and untamed Chuda of old. "That's how you should laugh," I said. "That's the Chuda I know." He ruffled my hair, said okay in a gentle voice. 17. The first year of the 21st century was probably also the most unforgettable year after my rebirth. Chuda expanded to over a dozen stores and simultaneously launched an online mall. On my 20th birthday, Chuda took me to the seaside, at the junction of day and night. The afterglow of sunset reflected on the avenue, the sea breeze brushed our faces, and the horizon was filled with twilight clouds of deep purple and light red. The last trace of daylight faded away. Suddenly, dazzling fireworks rose in the distance. Under the sky full of sparkling lights, Chuda suddenly knelt on one knee, holding up a diamond ring, and proposed to me by the sea. I think I'll remember that scene forever. After that day, we boarded the train back home, after 2 years away. Everything still looked familiar, though not exactly wealthy. It could be called a triumphant homecoming. I didn't bring Chida and returned to that home alone. I deliberately chose the evening and waited at the entrance of the building for my younger brother Lu Shuakong, who was returning late. I called his name. After 2 years apart, he didn't recognize me at first. "Who are you?" After a pause, he spoke with a face full of disdain. "Lu Ku, didn't you elope with someone? What, got abandoned?" Spoiled by his parents since childhood, he lacked empathy and had a sharp tongue. I didn't take it to heart, just smiled and said, "Yes, I eloped with someone, so now I want to discuss something with you." "What?" I lowered my head and took out a wad of cash from my wallet. "Here, take this, help me steal the household register." His eyes lit up, not caring at all why I needed the register, eagerly agreeing and snatching the money to stuff into his pocket. "I'll come find you again in a couple of days. Once the item is ready, I'll give you another sum of money. It's a deal." I turned and walked away. The corners of my mouth couldn't help but curl upwards. Although we really needed the household register to get the marriage certificate, the money I gave him had long been marked with its price. The reason Lu Shuakong was so happy is because he urgently needed money at that moment, while still in middle school. He followed some delinquent students and joined a gang with underworld connections. They ran an underground gambling den. Exposed to this environment daily, Lu Shuakong learned to gamble at a young age and lost substantial amounts of money. Initially he stole money from home, but when the debts became unmanageable and gang members came collecting, his parents finally discovered the situation. For their only son, they exhausted their family fortune, barely managing to repay the debts. Yet Lu Shuakong showed no remorse and went back to gambling. As his parents grew older, they couldn't afford medical treatment when ill, let alone give him money. He followed the same path as every gambler, stealing, robbing, and committing every evil deed imaginable. The latter half of his life was almost entirely spent in prison. Now when I give him money, it's just to make this process go a little faster. 18. 2 days later, I waited for Lu Shuakong at the usual spot, household register. He handed it to me. Where's the rest of the money? I expressionlessly took out my wallet, only for him to snatch it away. The rest is all mine. He swept away all the money like a robber. I smiled, picked up the wallet he had thrown on the ground, and watched his arrogant figure walk away. I wonder how much money he'll lose this time. After getting the household register, Chuda and I went to the Civil Affairs Bureau. Neither of us informed our parents. Just like star-crossed lovers in ancient times who pledged their lives to love without hesitation, in my previous life, I never got married. All my money was taken by my parents to pay off Lu Shuakong's debts. To make ends meet, I had to work desperately hard, as if to make up for my regrets. In this second life, fate allowed me to meet my other half much earlier. The group photo against the bright red background is the one where I'm smiling the sweetest. Chuda held me and said, "I'll come back by year-end and give you a grand wedding." I nodded and replied, "Okay." Having things to attend to, Chuda left early. I didn't go with him, staying a few more days. After all, there were still some things I hadn't finished. When I met Lu Shuakong again, the first thing he asked for was money. I gave it again. He counted the money with a smile, completely unconcerned about where my money came from. Nor did he see anything wrong with taking someone else's money. In his eyes, he was upholding our family's principle that women earn money for men to spend, as if this were the natural order of things. For the last time, I gave him a large sum of money. It was an amount he and his parents could never have imagined in their lifetime. Then, I bought a train ticket for that same day and returned to the south. Not long after returning, I received a phone call from my mother. I had no accidents. Before I left, I deliberately had someone pass my contact information to her. She sobbed over the phone, "Xiao Ku, do you have any money left? Your brother lost a lot gambling and was taken by debt collectors. They said they'd break his legs." Hearing her voice again after 2 years, I only felt estranged. "Xiao Xiao, who are you?" "I'm your mother." She sobbed uncontrollably. "Your father took out all our money but it still wasn't enough. Before Shuakong passed, he told me to contact you, saying you have money now." "That's right. I do have money now." I kept smiling. "But what does that have to do with you? I'm your mother. He was your own brother." "Oh," I replied indifferently, "so you still remember. But sorry, he should bear the consequences of his own actions. It has nothing to do with me. Let me give you some advice. Sell everything at home, especially that computer, and the money might just be enough. If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up. Have a nice life." After hanging up, I immediately unplugged the phone line. The current situation is just a replay of the past life. It's just that my interference made it happen a few years earlier. Their precious son is their own problem to solve. I won't lift a finger to help them anymore, whether they have to sell everything they own or exhaust their wealth. That's their life now. 19. At the end of the year, Chuda prepared a seaside wedding as promised. There weren't many guests, but each brought sincere blessings. It was a wedding without parents, yet filled with rebellious romance. Amidst a sky full of confetti and balloons, Chuda devoutly planted a kiss. "I swear, I will make you happy forever." 20. At 25, I returned to my hometown once again. By this time, Chuda had secured funding, riding the tailwind of the times, and their online store was thriving. Simultaneously, he donated many things to his hometown school, becoming a local celebrity. So after I returned, the director of the Education Bureau warmly welcomed me with his team. In the evening, the director wanted to host a dinner, and I didn't decline. I specifically requested to invite my alma mater's principal and a newly hired teacher at the school, Qing Sharu. I added with a smile, "She's my cousin." The director probably thought I wanted to reminisce, so when inviting them, he didn't mention my arrival, planning to give them a surprise. The result was indeed a surprise. After years apart, the principal seemed to have forgotten me, but Qing Sharu froze in place the moment she stepped through the door. The director asked with a chuckle, "Were you too shocked to see your cousin?" Only then did Qing Sharu flusteredly take her seat, her face deathly pale, at the dinner table. I smiled and clinked glasses with other guests, sharing stories of my years in the South and recounting our entrepreneurial journey over the years, perhaps thinking I'd let bygones be bygones. After several rounds of drinks, Qing Sharu gradually relaxed and occasionally chimed in with a few words. but whether addressing the bureau chief or school principal, there was always that same nauseating obsequiousness. I took a small sip and set down my wine glass. Suddenly, I remembered an amusing incident from my school days. The director became intrigued. "Do tell." I smiled and said, "In my senior year of high school, I was forced to drop out." As soon as the words were spoken, the room fell completely silent. The principal probably thought I was some successful alumnus at first, but when he realized I didn't even graduate high school, his expression instantly changed. The director likely didn't expect me to say such an inopportune remark either, but had no choice but to grit his teeth and continue asking, "Then, what happened?" I kept smiling. "This teacher Ching, who happens to be my cousin, is quite clever. She and other classmates concluded I was the thief and brought me before our dear principal here." Everyone's expressions changed. Awkward, curious, schadenfreude. I continued. "The principal was even smarter. He could label me a thief without investigation and threatened to drag me to the police station. Luckily, Teacher Ching pleaded for me, and the principal compromised, saying he'd drop the matter if I withdrew from school." After saying this, no one responded. Looking at the varied expressions before me, I smiled. "Just an old story, don't dwell on it. Let's keep eating." A few people chimed in, and the dinner proceeded. After the meal, the director pulled me aside. "I wasn't aware of this matter before. Rest assured, I'll thoroughly investigate these two individuals. If similar incidents occur, they'll face severe consequences. Forget about any future promotions." I smiled. "You're overstating it. That wasn't my intention." After some small talk, I left. I don't know how the director specifically handled this matter. In short, Ching Sheru quickly lost her job. Not long after, the principal in her alma mater's official profile was also replaced. The world is just this realistic. If you want to retaliate against those who've oppressed you with privilege, you can only do so by possessing even greater privilege. Before leaving, I went back to take one last look at home. I noticed the security door had been replaced, with a strange family now living inside. Perhaps they sold the house to repay debts, or maybe to escape debt collectors. In any case, they vanished. Suddenly I felt an unexpected lightness in my heart. The past torments, the exploitation of previous lives, the despairing dark memories, the bewildering uncertain future. At this moment, I was finally liberated. 21. The night of returning to the south, when Chitta returned from his business trip, dressed in a suit, he was no longer the scruffy young man who used to smoke in the factory. After our brief separation, he didn't even take off his coat before scooping me up in his arms. "Did you miss me?" He buried his face in my neck. "Yeah, what did you do during this trip back?" he asked. Thinking of the principal and Ching Sharu at that dinner gathering, I used a more easily understandable explanation. "Met some old acquaintances." Suddenly, Chuda raised his head. "A man." I was taken aback, then laughed, teasing him on purpose. "What's wrong?" President Chu, scared, he raised an eyebrow, turned and pinned me on the sofa, loosening his tie, provoking me. I was still smiling. How would I dare? The next second, his kisses rained down overwhelmingly. In the entanglement, he gently bit my lip, then let me test just how much you dare. That night, I had a dream. In my dreams, I continued to waste away in my past life, living day by day, seeing no future in this miserable and hopeless existence. My parents were drained dry by Lu Shuakong, yet they still ordered me, their daughter, around. I toiled without complaint for decades, only to be called an ungrateful wretch in the end. I finally learned the truth about being falsely accused and expelled from Du Shuachin, while the one who framed me, Ching Sharu, had long become a special grade teacher at the high school, being hailed as a model example year after year. Finally, on a snowy night, as I was packing up my stall and heading home, I collapsed into the snow. There wasn't a single part of my body that didn't hurt. They had beaten me many times before this. Too. I woke up at this moment. The morning light filters through the window, the bedroom is tranquil, and beside me lies Chitta, breathing steadily. For a moment, I feel dazed before snuggling into his embrace. Moments later, I tiptoe quietly into the bathroom. When I emerge, I'm holding a pregnancy test with 2 lines.